did they reach that decision? You know, I've never, ever been allowed to make my own representations. Not in 2020 and not for the last 5 years. For me, and only me, there has to be a royal obligation in order to receive protection on UK soil. And I think that speaks volumes.
Thank you for listening to the interview from the BBC World Service. If you enjoyed today's program, you can listen to the interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts. Until the next time, bye for now.
From the BBC, that was the interview. I'm Saroja Coelho. CBC News is next.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello there, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We're live downtown and in our CBC studios on Portage Ave on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning. Wow, it was windy yesterday. It's going to be actually very similar today, forecast-wise. In Winnipeg, we're expecting winds north, gusting 30 to 50. Today's high is 17 degrees, so not as hot as that 30 yesterday, but sunshine all day long. So that's Winnipeg. Over in Brandon, I can tell you that you're going to get clearing this morning. Winds will be gusting 20 to 40 from the northeast. Your high also 17. And also some clearing up in Thompson, where you're going to have a day with lighter winds and a high of 7 degrees. Welcome to the morning show. We're on air till 8:37 a.m. And let's say hi to the team. Corey Funk, good morning. Corey's going to be directing the show and then also covering traffic. And he's got a special story he's going to bring us from outside the studio today as well. Stay tuned. Also, Brad Lilly's here. Hi, Brad. Brad waving hello to you. He is our YouTube producer and mixer. He's on the air with us in the control room. And hello to Abby Adeyemi, who is also here. And behind the controls, our senior tech on the show. And Abby covers weather on Infrared. All right, Heather Wells is here too. It's 2 minutes now to 6. She's here with your local headlines to start the day.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba's Progressive Conservative Party has disclosed a deficit on Obby Khan's first day in the Legislative Chamber as party leader. The party filed its annual return yesterday. In 2024, it ran a deficit of $689,000. The governing NDP during that same year posted an $835,000 surplus. And Winnipeg businesses are excited for another round of Whiteout Street parties. The Winnipeg Jets face the Dallas Stars in Game 1 tomorrow night right here. A deeper playoff run means Ice Time Sports owner Michael Wynn has had to place another order for white shirts and hoodies. And Will Galt at the downtown street party will take his Willie's Dogs hot dog cart. He says it's a chance to expand his business. We'll hear more coming up at 6:30.
So many hot dogs. Especially when the game starts at 8:30, right? It'll be like hot dogs into the night.
Love it.
Thanks, Heath.
You're welcome.
On the program this morning, in the first hour, a secret location, a strict dress code, and a celebrity chef. We're going to hear more about the upcoming table for 1,200 in our community. And then we're going to tee up what's going to happen with Prime Minister Carney and Donald Trump today.
Today on Q.
I'm Jill Deacon, sitting in for Tom Power. Joe Keery is best known as an actor on Stranger Things.
This is what I'm talking about.
But last year, one of his songs went viral. Joe Keery joins Tom Power to talk about the end of Stranger Things and his new music.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Marcia Young. Canada's relationship with the United States will be front and center today. Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet with the U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House. It is the first official sit-down for the two leaders since last week's federal election. Tariffs and Trump's comments about annexing Canada will likely add to the intensity of this meeting. The CBC's Richard Madden joins me now from Washington. And Richard, what are we expecting today?
Yeah, the White House agenda says the Prime Minister will arrive at the White House around 11:30 Eastern Time. There'll be an official greeting in the Oval Office before the two leaders hold a working lunch behind closed doors. Now, there are, of course, a lot of items on the agenda for this high-stakes meeting, from trade to tariffs to economic partnership. But with all that, there are the optics and unpredictability from President Trump when the cameras are rolling. Now, this is a president who's mused about annexing Canada, turning it into the 51st state, who will be sitting beside alongside a prime minister who built his campaign against the Trump administration. Now, Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick sounded skeptical the two leaders will reach a deal or consensus on trade, while hurling more insults at Canada during an interview on Fox Business News.
They have their socialist regime, and it's basically feeding off of America. I mean, the president calls that out all the time. Why do we make cars in Canada? Why do we do our films in Canada? Come on.
Now, it's worth noting Trump has sounded less hostile to Canada and its prime minister since his election, and some journalists here say Trump appears to have taken credit for holding the Liberal government to a minority.
Richard, what impact could this have on Canada-U.S. relations?
Yeah, it is a high-stakes meeting, but the Prime Minister has already been downplaying expectations ahead of it, saying, don't expect a breakthrough. This is the first step to lower tensions and reset the strained relationship between the two countries. Now, from Trump's perspective, he says he's ready to make a deal on trade and tariffs, but the challenge appears to be the goalposts keep changing, and Trump's on-again, off-again tariff policy has left many industry and political leaders guessing.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
The CBC's Richard Madden in Washington. While Carney focuses on trade and tariffs, Conservative MPs are looking ahead to the return of Parliament. Under Pierre Poilievre, the party increased its votes and increased its seat count, but it didn't win. And Conservative MPs are regrouping at a caucus meeting today in Ottawa. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. And Janice, a lot for Conservatives to decide today. Walk us through that.
Marcia, there are some Conservatives who believe they lost because of Pierre Poilievre, but so far it appears there are more Conservatives who believe they almost won because of Poilievre, and he needs to keep going. Even MPs in the second camp, though, have to reckon with the fact that they're not in government and figure out where the blame lies. Does the fault lie with campaign manager Jenny Byrne, or were there factors beyond her control? Former Cabinet Minister Peter MacKay believes the caucus is going to want to see changes in the wake of what happened.
There'll be an airing of grievances, but there'll also be an emphasis on the positive things that happened in this campaign.
With the return of Parliament only weeks away, MPs have some key decisions to make on how much power their caucus is going to hold, whether they want as a group to control their membership, whether they want to be able to elect their chair, whether they want the power to launch a leadership review, and whether they want the right to choose a new interim party leader, like what happened after former leader Erin O'Toole lost the election in 2021. Because Pierre Poilievre failed to win a seat in the House of Commons, they need someone else to serve as leader of the official opposition, at least for the short term. If MPs pick someone today who's known to be a loyalist to Poilievre, that may be a sign that his leadership is safe for the longer term.
But an MP has already stepped aside so Poilievre can run in that riding. So why won't he be in the House this spring?
You're right. Damien Carrick has already volunteered to give up his very safe rural Alberta seat of Battle River Crowfoot. But there's a 30-day waiting period after a general election before he can do so. By the time that unfolds and it's declared vacant and they have a by-election campaign, that's simply not enough time to see Poilievre back in the House until likely the fall.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. The federal NDP, meanwhile, have chosen an interim leader. Jagmeet Singh resigned on election night after the party's worst showing in history. For now, Vancouver MP Don Davies will be filling the role. Germany was supposed to get a new chancellor today, but there's been a surprising upset.
Mitgliederzahl 630, 21 ungültiger Stimmzettel. Einer.
That is the president of Germany's parliament reading out MP votes. Friedrich Merz was expected to be confirmed as chancellor. He's the leader of a majority coalition, but he was defeated by just 6 votes. That is something that has not happened in Germany since the Second World War. The Bundestag now has 14 days to elect a candidate with an absolute majority. Merz can run again, but so can other lawmakers. If none of them gets a majority in the next 2 weeks, the president can appoint the frontrunner as chancellor or call another election. Lawyers for the 5 former World Junior Hockey players accused of sexual assault will again today cross-examine the alleged victim known as EM. They are questioning her about her account of the alleged sexual assault in a London, Ontario hotel in 2018. As the CBC's Katie Nicholson reports, this trial is being watched closely by advocates and legal experts alike.
What do we want? Ever since her first day in court, supporters of EM have gathered outside the courthouse. Those who work to end gender-based violence have taken a keen interest in the trial, even sitting in for her testimony, and especially her cross-examination. On Monday, that meant probing for inconsistencies between statements EM gave to Hockey Canada and London police, but also questions about how much she used to drink and whether she was really as intoxicated as she has testified.
Today we probably got a little bit of a taste of the cross-examination that's going to be happening.
Jessie Roger is with ANOVA, which among other things works with sexual assault victims.
I think that those of us who work in the field of sexual violence are going to be listening closely to how rape myths come into the courtroom.
We have to remember that this case is going to get tried in the courtroom and not on the courthouse steps.
London-based defense attorney Nick Cake, who isn't involved in the case but is watching it closely, says the accused's lawyers have to walk a fine line.
Ultimately, the Supreme Court has reminded defense counsel a number of times that we are to treat complainants in sexual assault matters with dignity and with respect.
But Cake says they also have to ask tough questions to properly represent their clients.
When you're in front of a jury, you want to be mindful of how you appear, but you cannot sacrifice personal appearance for the function of seeking the truth.
Lawyers for the 5 accused are expected to do just that as they continue their first full day of cross-examination of EM. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, London, Ontario.
The air and ground search for 2 missing children in rural Nova Scotia is now in its 5th day. Dozens of volunteers worked through the night. They searched the wooded area near the home where the kids disappeared Friday. At this point, RCMP say they still believe the children wandered off. Nicolas Seguin reports.
Volunteers pushing through rough terrain and dense woods, hoping for a trace of 2 children who vanished, 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother Jack.
They're like best friends, not just brother and sister.
Daniel Martel is their stepfather.
Jack just absolutely loves bugs, dinosaurs, and anything like that. But Lily loves girly things, but she also loves doing everything with Jack, Bug.
Officials believe the 2 children wandered off from their home in Lansdowne Station on Friday. It's a rural area of northwestern Nova Scotia, more than 100 kilometers from Halifax. Martel says he saw Lily and Jack that morning, then silence.
As soon as I noticed they weren't there, I immediately jumped right in the vehicle and surveyed all the area, every dirt road, every culvert they could find.
Police say they don't suspect an abduction and are calling in reinforcements to keep searching the area overnight with dogs, drones, and by foot. Corporal Carly McCann is with the Nova Scotia RCMP.
We've heard a lot about the impact that this is having on the community at large and the family, and it's really important that we locate these children.
Many are also lending a hand outside the search perimeter, preparing 3 meals a day at a nearby Salvation Army as the community holds its breath, hoping for good news. Nicolas Seguin, CBC News, Pictou County, Nova Scotia.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We are live downtown in our studios, and we're going to have another nice sunny day. Not quite as hot as yesterday, but that was an odd one anyway, wasn't it? For the beginning of May to have that kind of heat, incredible. This hour on the program, a secret location, a strict dress code, and a celebrity chef. We're going to hear more about the upcoming table for 1200. It's happening later this month in Winnipeg, and we're going to hear more about it coming up in a moment. In addition, we'll dig into the details of a recent pitch from several South Korean companies to replace and resupply Canada's military equipment, from submarines to artillery. So what does that look like, and is this something that Canada should be engaging in? How old is that equipment? Does it have the latest tech? What will it replace in this country? So we'll look at that. And then the Carney-Trump meeting. You've just been hearing about it on World Report, but we'll have a deeper interview about it on Ottawa Report. Stay tuned. Local headlines in a moment. And those local headlines come from Heather Wells. Hi there.
Hi, good morning. Well, Manitoba's premier says he will not seek the federal NDP leadership. Wab Kinew spoke for the first time since his national counterparts were decimated in last week's federal election. Jagmeet Singh lost his own seat in BC, resigning as party leader. Kinew says he has no interest in replacing Singh, calling being Manitoba's premier the best job in the world. And Winnipeg is trying to take advantage of the Winnipeg Jets' moment in the spotlight to promote tourism to this city. And industry experts say the effort is already paying off. We'll hear how coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Let's get into what's happening traffic-wise and weather-wise. So with your forecast, first, here's Abby Adiemi. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. We're looking across the region. It's going to be sunny, but not as hot as yesterday. We're going to see more like our cooler temperatures across other regions. Winnipeg right now, 9 degrees, partly cloudy skies are seen. As we get into the day, the clouds will clear up, and then we'll see the sun make its appearance. Winds will get breezy at some point coming from the north, and temperatures will warm to 17 degrees in Winnipeg today. In other regions, we're seeing that cooler temperature with sunny conditions also coming. The southern region from the Red River Pembina, Interlake, Westman, Parkland region, we're looking at temperatures at this point hovering 6 to 8 degrees this morning. Also expecting sunny breaks and breezy winds. Highs would get close to 19 in most of the regions down south. And then we travel up north, different conditions we're seeing there. Thompson is currently at below zero at this point, -3, and we are at -11 in Churchill.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, good morning.
Good morning.
What do you know about the commute?
Very quiet, as it's been actually pretty much all weekend last week as well. To tell you, it's lovely on the bike lanes. Biked in yesterday. Had my first bike to Assiniboine Park yesterday as well.
What was that like?
It was lovely. We had ultimate frisbee seasons happen. So shout out to everyone who had the game yesterday.
A lot of people out there.
A lot of people out. A lot of wind as well. So very fun. But yeah.
We should actually do our sort of seasonal call out because it's so nice so early in the spring here for active commuters that are unique, like the people that get out on the water to paddle, or the people that pogo stick. Or,
I've seen a few rollerbladers as well.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're canoeing, or maybe you're going to take the water taxi, that's not quite open yet, I don't think. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Tell us how you get where you need to go. You can give us a call. You give me a call, and we can talk about it. 204-788-3093.
I love how Corey's like, give me a call. Because if you call Marcusa, it'll get stuck in her email and she'll lose it. And it could be true. 788-3093. Well, don't lose this date, May 24th, because to mark the start of summer, Storefront Manitoba's annual fundraiser does return to Winnipeg, and that's just in 3 short weeks. Table for 1200 is a pop-up dining experience. It promotes architecture and urban design. As usual, if you know this event, there's a dress code. They want it to look really lovely. And so this year, it's black and white with a touch of pink. And a portion of proceeds will go to charity. Now, the location remains a secret until the day of the event, but Richard Dirksen has been involved for quite a number of years with this. He's with Storefront Manitoba. He's also an architect, and he's in studio. Nice to see you.
Hi, Marcy.
So for those who are unfamiliar, and still haven't gone to this, what's Table for 1200? I know I described a bit of it, but
well, you also described it very well, and as you said, the weather is getting quite gorgeous out there. So this is kind of the first big community event in Winnipeg. It's a big gala. It's a fundraiser for us, but it's a celebration of Winnipeg, of spring, of community, all those things.
And it's always a long table that people sit at.
Wait. The first one in 2014 was on the Provincial Bridge, which was one long table.
Okay.
But after the pandemic, we wanted to sort of have people more comfortable and more... comfortable
little bit
in
of
a social bit of space, but also a feeling of being together. So we had 3 concentric circles in Assiniboine Park.
Okay.
It was just an amazing experience. So since then, we've tried to not be so linear, but maybe try to be a bit more designy with how we lay out the tables.
Got it. So you're mixing up the setups.
Yeah, you were saying the dress code. Well, yes, the dress code used to be all white, and then we changed it to black and white and pink, but if this night coincides with the Jets playoff game, I think we're going to go all white again.
Yeah, you probably should.
Do a white out.
You probably should. It'll be like, why did they add pink?
And those ardent Jets fans will be able to watch the game at our event. We're not going to ignore that important thing.
Do you know what's funny about that? I MC something every year around the 22nd of May. I'm doing it again this year. It's a fundraiser for a refugee camp in Dadaab that some three local Manitobans get behind and they fundraise for. But when the Jets are on, they also pipe it into the dinner and people grab their napkins and spin them over their heads.
We'll be doing that for sure.
Tell me a little bit about this year's theme and where the proceeds of the tickets will go.
Good. So the theme we thought was appropriate was called Connect. And Connect is vague enough that it could mean several things, but it's also, to me, it's also specific. Connecting is about securing something. And I think when I look at our world and listen to your news, there's a lot of divisive thinking and a lot of divisive things happening in the world. And we think that to develop community and to reinforce community at every step is what we really have to do, and to understand the importance of community. And we think that design, Marcy, can also enhance community and can inspire people and can integrate people, and that we can make a difference through how we design our urban experience, our urban environments, and also our smaller communities. But I think design has power. People are interested in it, so we like to engage people in the discussion and to sort of also promote good design. And then we can debate, what does good design mean? I mean, it's really an infinite topic, I find.
People can come and attend this, right?
Yeah.
Or they can be part of the design. So explain that if people haven't been involved before. You can actually, you buy a table, but you're actually going to design it yourself.
Well, the part of the designy aspect of the evening is that each table has a different theme, and that the people there are responsible for bringing and envisaging and also to realize this table display or whatever it is. It's wide open.
But under the theme of Connect?
Well, under the theme of Connect, and they can, interpret that quite widely, I think.
Yeah.
So we've seen amazing displays in the past, and I was going to say it's not a competition, but it kind of is a competition because it is judged. But
there's this. I've heard that there could be a celebrity chef this year.
Well, we've had the same head chef since 2014, because Ben Kramer has been amazing at feeding us all. But he has now brought in some other guests to help enliven this event. A lot of people in Winnipeg are foodies, and they come for the food experience.
Yep.
And so Ben has Hank Mitchell, Krista Gunther from Feast Bistro, Alex Valenzuela, and Mitchell Mann also joining on the sort of a dream team of chefs.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's a really, really beautiful night.
And they have also wine pairings that go with these different courses that are served in a family style.
When do people find out the location?
Well, that's on the day of, Marcy. It's very, I just kind of want to tell you, but I can't. I mean,
everybody wants to know in
I'm
advance.
really psyched about it. And I think the surprise is a part of the experience for a lot of people. They like to be surprised, and just on that day, I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's just a thing.
Well, it's part of the event now,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Where do I mentioned there's a charity involved.
There is.
Yeah.
So Ben Kramer has his own charity called Made with Love that started during those pandemic years, where nutritious gourmet meals were served to less fortunate people. And he partners with Main Street Project in the delivery of those meals.
How can people get tickets?
It's very easy to go onto our website's very easy to find, storefrontmb.ca. Mm-hmm. So that's one word, storefrontmb.ca, and there's a link on there. Tickets can be bought individually, in pairs, or in tables.
How many people do you expect? It's ranged, I guess. Obviously, it's table for 1,200. But
it's table for 1,200.
What actually happens?
Well, some years we're table for 1,100. We really hope that this year we can be 1,200. It's going to be an amazing location. As I say, I can't say where. I think it's every location's special, obviously, but this one, yeah.
Thank you very much for coming in early, Rick. What have I missed in terms of details? Did we get everything out?
I think we got everything out. Tickets on our website, May 24th, and don't worry about the Jets. We got them. They'll be at
you covered.
They'll be there as well. And we have the mayor and the premier are invited, and they often show up, and other very interesting people. You don't have to be a designer. Just have to be interested in community.
And connecting.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for connecting with us. Nice to see you.
Such a pleasure to be here.
That is Richard Dirksen, local architect and chair of the Storefront Manitoba Board. So table for 1,200, May 24th this year. You can check out Storefront's website for more details and tickets.
Terry O'Reilly reads a lot of books while researching Under the Influence, and often he stumbles on great stories that don't fit into regular episodes, like the Bible with a wicked typo. Whoops. A hit song about a hot air balloon. And bookmarks on Under the Influence with Terry O'Reilly, Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland, and on demand on CBC Listen.
9 degrees in Winnipeg, partly cloudy, mainly clear over in Brandon, and 4-4 up in Thompson. We have that kind of hazy look to the sky this morning as the sun's getting up with all of us. 6:22 a.m. the time right now, and next on the show, Canada faces both a challenging relationship with the United States and a growing push from NATO to increase defense spending. Those factors have led to a trio of South Korean companies to make an unprecedented multi-billion-dollar pitch to our government. So the proposed proposal promises quick delivery of submarines, artillery, and military equipment. But will Canada move ahead with this deal? To talk about it, Christian Leuprecht is with us, a professor at the Royal Military College and Queen's University. And he's currently working on defense relations, by the way, as a fellow at the Wilfrid Martin Centre for European Studies in Brussels. And he joins us by Zoom. Hi there.
Good morning.
So when you look at these proposals, what's in it for Canada?
So defense procurement is about buying on time, on budget, and on capability. And I don't need to explain to any of the listeners that Canada doesn't do any of those particularly well, and we seem to have gotten worse at it. And so the South Korean proposal is interesting because it is very cost effective for high quality equipment, and it is able to deliver on a timeline that likely no other bidder would be able to meet, including, for instance, promising to have a submarine in the water for Canada by 2030. So from a purely force generation and sustainment perspective, this is a very attractive bid, and it is a package of material that the Canadian Armed Forces desperately needed yesterday, both for the organization and for the credibility with our allies. So certainly politically an interesting foray.
I was posing the question, is this going to be worth it for Canada, and what's the age of the equipment and such? So what's the quality of the equipment that they're offering?
Look, the South Koreans have a very robust defense industry. They have a proven track record of delivering and, of building a high-quality equipment in a very cost-effective manner. They also provide some capabilities that otherwise we might be have difficulty obtaining. So Canada had already been looking at both Japan and South Korea for its submarines, both because the United States has no maritime capabilities that it is able or wants to sell to Canada, in part because the U.S. can't meet its own shipbuilding requirements. And because our European partners build maritime capabilities that tend to be built more for the European neighborhood, so they can't do the long distances that Canada is looking for, although there are two European companies that are also looking to bid on the submarines. So the South Korean bid is not coming sort of completely out of the blue.
What's in this deal for South Korea then?
So certainly there's the transactional elements of keeping your defense industry going, because defense industries always need to produce. And so this is additional contracts. There's also a political element of trying to get more Canada in the Indo-Pacific. Asian partners since NATO Strategic Concept 2022 have really been trying to get more NATO presence. And of course, the capabilities that comes with that presence, which many NATO partners don't have. And certainly South Koreans are also looking to get a foothold with European partners, because the European Union, under its Rearm Europe plan, is looking to spend 800 billion euros at least over the next 5 years on re-equipping European militaries. And so this is an effort to try to see what South Korea could generate. The challenge, of course, for Canada is we have no capability currently to maintain South Korean equipment in Canada or by and large in Europe. So that's going to be one major point of sort of consideration.
What does that mean? How do we consider that if we don't have a way to maintain it? If we go through with a deal like this, does that create a different industry or a different partnership to maintain our stuff then?
Well, the South Koreans are offering to build all this material in South Korea. So that is going to be one sticking point. Canadian politicians like to build things in Canada. Of course, that comes with significant additional cost. I've long argued that we should just let people build their defense material wherever they build it most effectively, and then take the savings, put it into regional development cooperation, and let politicians spend it on whatever they might want to spend it on. But the broader sort of considerations here are, of course, that for instance, the Draghi report in Europe has pointed out that European economic growth is 1% smaller in terms of GDP every year because Europe does not invest in its technology and defense industry the way the United States does. And so if all this equipment is being built in South Korea, it means we're not advancing Canadian innovation and we're not advancing Canadian GDP growth the way we could, not only if it were built here, but if we partnered with European partners, many of whom already have very robust defense capabilities that they run here in Canada. And so we would be able to expect probably a greater proportion of the money that Europe is looking to spend anyways to come to Canada if we in return commit to European equipment.
What do you think the sticking point is to committing to South Korean versus European equipment? Or what's the distinction between the two in your view?
Well, so for instance, strategic considerations. So we point out with the submarines, that might be a very attractive offer for Canada. On artillery systems, look, there's 18, I think, artillery systems within continental Europe alone. So there's lots of capability on offer. And on air defense systems, we defend the continent with the United States. So we ultimately need equipment that is interoperable with the United States. And it's also the way about how do we think about this? Politicians think about buying kit, tanks, planes, ships. Whereas what we need to think about is what effects do we need to achieve in the 21st century? If it's about digital warfare, then certainly the F-35 is the only plane on offer that can generate those effects. The F-35 is also the only plane that can defeat Russian air defenses. So really, are we investing in defense or are we investing in deterrence? If the point is to try to change Putin's mind from invading a NATO member country, then the type of equipment we procure and how it stands up to a possible Russian adversarial activity in particular is a major consideration.
What else or who else is out there if we're looking to spend money in new ways just to broaden this out in the future beyond this immediate deal on the table, or proposal rather?
Well, so certainly our traditional relationship has always been with the United States, given that we defend the continent together. But on some areas, the U.S. can deliver, and on other areas, there are also important political considerations. So look, we've long used, for instance, European partners to offset the vagaries of U.S. unilateralism, and we should not be surprised that our European partners have been stunningly silent when our economic and political sovereignty is threatened by our U.S. partner, given that we have not delivered for Europe on energy security and on defense. So here's an opportunity also for Canada to send a political message to Europe that, yes, we are partnering with you. In return, we expect you to also partner with us in making sure that understanding that Canadian sovereignty is fundamentally not just about Canada, it is also fundamentally in Europe's interest, in the European Union's interest, and in many of our key partners in Europe, and that where we spend our defense money is an important signal to that effect.
Thanks very much, Christian, for this, especially setting it up on a day where the Prime Minister is going to meet with the U.S. President. It's just interesting to sort of hear, what's happening in the backdrop of Canada repositioning itself, if you will. Appreciate your time.
The timing is certainly propitious. Have a lovely morning.
It really is. Christian Leuprecht is a professor at the Royal Military College and Queen's University and a senior fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. We reached him via Zoom this morning. Still ahead, business news. We're going to hear why Wall Street and how, rather, Wall Street has lost ground. That is right after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is 9 degrees. You'll feel the difference. The heat from yesterday is gone. We're back to seasonal today. Sunny, a cold north wind, and a high today of 17. Premier Rob Kinew says he is disappointed with the NDP's losses in the federal election. Kinew spoke to reporters for the first time since last Monday's vote. The NDP was reduced to 7 seats in the House of Commons, losing official party status. Manitoba lost 2 of its 3 NDP seats. Jagmeet Singh lost his own seat in BC, stepping down as party leader. Yesterday, Kinew thanked Singh for his years of service.
We both became leaders of our respective parties around the same time, and we had a real relationship. I always said throughout that, Jagmeet and I, we have to stick together.
Kinew has ruled out a run for the federal leadership. He says he plans to serve his full term as Manitoba's premier and then seek another term in the next provincial election. Last night, the federal NDP chose Vancouver Kingsway MP Don Davies as interim leader. Now, Manitoba's Progressive Conservative Party disclosed a deficit on Obi Khan's first day in the Legislative Chamber as party leader. The party filed its annual return on Monday. In 2024, it ran a deficit of $689,000. That same year, the governing NDP posted an $835,000 surplus. Khan says he plans to spend the summer raising money and getting the PCs ready for the next provincial election. Prime Minister Mark Carney has said he expects difficult but constructive talks today when he meets for the first time with U.S. President Donald Trump. Carney's in Washington, where he will sit down with Trump at the White House amid recent trade tensions, Trump's tariffs and his musings about wanting Canada to become the 51st state. The Prime Minister has said the meeting will mark the beginning of a larger economic and security agreement between our two countries. Former diplomat Colin Robertson, an expert on Canada-U.S. relations, says Carney will be prepared for any comments about Canada's sovereignty. You can hear more national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. The kind of publicity Winnipeg's getting during the NHL playoffs does not come cheap. The televised hockey games and the whiteout street parties have put the spotlight on this city and downtown. It is too soon to know the full economic impact of the games and the whiteout street parties, but Economic Development Winnipeg says it's already seeing some benefit. It invited 10 social media content creators from across Canada and the U.S. to come to Winnipeg to promote the games. Vice President of Tourism Natalie Thiessen says that content generated 58 million views, worth about $2 million in what she calls earned media.
That ability to position our city in a different way and having more eyeballs on Winnipeg allows us to do our jobs and extend our reach that our budget doesn't allow.
Winnipeg businesses, meanwhile, are ready for more whiteout sales in the second round of the NHL playoffs. Willie Galt, the owner of Willie's Dogs, will be taking his hot dog cart to tomorrow's downtown street party. He says Jets playoff runs help everyone.
You can't really lose by doing this, and it recognizes you also for other people to showcase your food with that many people in the venue that want to book you for, corporate events or school barbecues or private parties.
Ice Time Sports owner Michael Wynn says the Jets going into round 2 means he's had to place another order for white shirts and hoodies. People in Thompson are being offered a chance to learn trade skills like welding and woodworking in free workshops. It's happening at a new educational facility in the northern city. Skills Shop North opened its doors late last year inside a former warehouse. Jordan Eilot is a volunteer instructor.
We start with a rough and furry piece of lumber, and we introduce all of the participants to the process of taking that rough and furry piece of lumber through the entire wood milling process.
Skills Shop North is funded through federal and provincial government grants. Eilot says while classes aren't running regular right now, he hopes more funding will lead to more workshops. And the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs is underway as the Toronto Maple Leafs are off to a good start.
It will go into the books as a 5-4 Maple Leaf win in Game 1.
The Leafs opening their best-of-7 series with the Florida Panthers with a 5-4 victory. Game 2 tomorrow, again in Toronto. As for the Edmonton Oilers, their series with Las Vegas gets underway tonight in Vegas. And, of course, the Winnipeg Jets get started in Game 1 of the second round of the series against the Dallas Stars right here at Canada Life Centre. It's a late start. Puck drop at 8:30. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
I don't know, man. That's really late.
It is for us.
I know, we sound so lame. But you know what? It's going to be packed downtown, and the weather's going to be pretty good as well.
Yeah,
So-
it's going to warm back up. Yeah, it's going to be lovely.
Yep. All right, thanks, Seth.
You're welcome.
Let's get into that. The regional forecast for today across Manitoba. Here's now Abby Adiyemi.
Good morning. Another sunny and cool one across the regions. We're looking at clear skies already this morning, stretching from the south and traveling into the northern territories, gradually warming up as we get through the day. In Winnipeg at this point, 9 degrees. The sun has made its appearance. We should see this cloudy patch we're seeing to clear by midday, giving away to full sunshine and a fall-like feel. It gets breezy at some points with the winds coming from the north. Temperatures will warm up to 17 degrees and more clear skies tonight. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region, Morden, Winkler, Alton and Morris. Temperatures hovering around 8 and 9 degrees this morning. The sun also breaking through as we get into the day, and it's going to stay that way. 19 degrees, you're warming up to. I can hear that, Mercy.
Is someone yelling goal behind you or something? What is going on?
It's the jet movement still happening.
Was that you, Corey? Are
That
you
was-
yelling goal behind?
That was.
What are you doing, man?
We were talking about the Jets.
So Abby's trying to focus on the weather, and all I hear in the background is like, so I'm like, hang on a minute, there's no game today. That's funny.
This is how big the Jets fever is. We talk about it all the time. That's funny that we were making it through. I know
Sorry, Abby. Pick
No.
up where you left off there.
No problem. Let's head into Brandon at this point. 6 degrees, mainly clear. We're seeing it will be a sunny day throughout, warming up to 17 degrees. In the Parkland region, Dauphin surrounding areas, we're seeing temperatures around 2 degrees at this time. Clear conditions, you do have plenty of sunshine in the forecast. You warm up to about around 16 degrees. No rain expected for that part of the province today. In the Interlake region, Gimli surrounding areas, 8 degrees you're seeing. Clear skies, you do have more sunshine coming your way through the day. Mild north winds, and you see highs get to 13 degrees. And then we track conditions up north, where we're still seeing temperatures below zero this morning. Looking at the powerful influence surrounding areas, it's already sunny there and clear. However, you're not that warm. You're at -2 at this point, only warming up to 11 later in the day. And then in Thompson, temperatures at -4 under cloudy skies. It's going to clear today. You warm up to 7. And in Churchill, we have that light snow and drifting snow from yesterday still in play today, with temperatures around -12. You only warm up to -4 today. So down south, clear, sunny. Up north, winds are still holding things down there.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
I don't know why you're excited about the Jets. Aren't they making you come in extra early Thursday because the game's going to be so late?
They are doing that. I know. I'm just getting myself pumped up now. You got to start. I know.
What's up in the commute? Quiet?
It is. It's been very quiet, very lovely out there. If you are active commuting, if you do want to tell me, how things are going, because I'm sure lots of people now are starting to get out and do something other than drive. Now that's so nice outside. If you want to tell me how you're getting to work, if you're a unicycler, would love to know. Give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
21 minutes to 7 o'clock here with CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at the show. And next it's time for business news via Zoom. Chrisley Ramlakan joins us now with her report. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So let's start with Wall Street. Wall Street's lost ground, and this breaks a 9-day winning streak. How else are the markets doing?
Yeah, well, Canada's main stock index also closed down yesterday amid trade worries and a drop in the price of oil. And speaking of trade, of course, Prime Minister Mark Carney is set to meet with President Donald Trump today. So yeah, oil prices have hit a 4-year low after the OPEC Plus group of oil-producing nations announced plans to increase output. So oil prices are down sharply for the year over worries about an economic slowdown. And the market losses came amid a relatively calm day of mostly mixed trading, and they follow several weeks of gains that have actually helped the market wipe away its losses since the ongoing trade war began. So many of the more severe tariffs from the U.S. that were supposed to go into effect in April have been delayed by 3 months, and the delays have provided some relief to Wall Street. But uncertainty about the impact from current and possibly future tariffs continues to hang over the markets and the economy.
Let's go to another story this morning. The Competition Bureau is taking Canada's Wonderland to court. Why?
Yeah, so the Bureau alleges the company that runs the amusement and water park north of Toronto engages in deceptive marketing practices. The Bureau is accusing Canada's Wonderland of drip pricing, where a company advertises lower prices than what consumers ultimately have to pay, as the prices exclude mandatory fixed fees. So the Bureau says Wonderland charges a processing fee for online purchases to park admission, and that fee starts at $6.99 and then increases to $8.99 or $9.99 depending on the number of items purchased. And for items that are not admission, it charges a single 99-cent processing fee. Now, the Bureau is seeking a ruling that would stop Wonderland from allegedly engaging in deceptive price advertising and would make Wonderland pay a penalty and issue restitution to affected consumers. So Canada's Wonderland, which is located in Vaughan, Ontario, says the Bureau's allegations are unfounded. The amusement park says from the outset, guests receive disclosure of any applicable taxes and fees. And the company says it is important that it provides guests with options so they can choose products that best suit their preferences. And it says the flexibility determines the level of processing fee that people pay.
And finally, GameStop Canada has been bought. What are the details?
Yes, so GameStop Canada says it has been acquired by French-Canadian entrepreneur Stéphane Tétrault from the video game retailer's struggling parent company. So officially named Electronics Boutique Canada, it was rebranded to GameStop Canada in 2021, but now it is returning to its roots and will relaunch its 185 stores as EB Games Canada. So Tétrault is the founder of Montreal area-based toy manufacturer Imports Dragon and is co-owner of American action figure maker McFarlane Toys. And last month became a partner at Canadian chain Mastermind Toys. U.S.-based GameStop said in February it was looking to sell its Canadian and French operations as it evaluated its international assets and doubled down on cost cutting. Of course, GameStop was one of the companies at the center of the meme stock craze on Wall Street, which saw struggling brands' share prices soar as retail investors made some risky bets. And plans for the revamped EB Games include enhanced in-store events, expanded product lines, and deeper integration with pop culture brands. And the transition is supposed to roll out nationwide over the coming months.
Markets today, what are they looking like? More numbers?
In Europe, markets are lower. So Germany is down, the UK is down, France is down. In Asia, stocks are mixed. Japan is up, Shanghai is up, Hong Kong is up. Oil is up $1.21, but it's still at $58.34 US per barrel. Gold is up $45.10 to $3,378.50 US per ounce. And the dollar is flat at 72.3 cents US.
All right, Crystal, thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
Tomorrow we'll talk to Crystal Ramlakan once again for our business news on CBC. It is 6:44 a.m. Sun coming up. Hopefully you're going to have a great day at work or school or wherever you're heading today. It is going to be sunny and 17 degrees, so colder than yesterday, but cooler than yesterday, I should say. It's hardly going to be cold. Looks like a beautiful spring day. Should mention here coming up a couple of things. So after 7 o'clock, we're going to be talking about, with our, religious contributor, our faith contributor on the show, about a shift in who's giving to charity in Canada and how older generations that are often church-going generations, and he'll dig into why I'm saying that on our column, give. The challenge is a lot of younger generations are not attending church. They're also not giving, though. So what's the correlation between faith and charity? And what are the concerns in this country about that? So stay tuned. That's coming up on our column after 7 o'clock this morning. Right now, though, it's time to dip into a summer frame of mind, because the summer travel season is shaping up to be an interesting one, with many Canadians deciding to avoid the United States. Tourism operators across the country are hoping this is going to translate into more visits by people staying closer to home. CBC's Blair Sanderson has this look at why some smaller cities and towns could be the biggest winners this summer.
Keith Folks says he won't set foot in the U.S. this year. He lives in Winnipeg and often takes his family south for a holiday. But with Trump in the White House, he's heading west instead, taking the kids to see the Dinosaur Museum in Drumheller.
You know, going on the number one highway, that's a very Canadian thing to do. And, you know, there's some smaller communities around Drumheller, so we can plan things out a little bit.
Keith says he's looking forward to the open road and open skies and keeping more of his money in the local economy.
We're going to spend our dollars in Canada where, you know, people might be having economic hard times, and we want to put our dollars where it can help Canadians.
It's been a long time since Canada's felt so united.
This is the latest tourism ad for Newfoundland and Labrador. Like the old ones, they feature icebergs and colorful clothes drying on a line. But now there's also a focus on the people in tiny towns taking in tourist dollars.
Jeannie will be the one to check you in at Jeannie's Sunrise Bed and Breakfast.
The plan appears to be working. The ferry service that takes visitors to the west coast of Newfoundland is up 7,000 bookings compared to this time last year. Wayne Smith is a professor of tourism at Toronto's Metropolitan University. He says people are searching for something a little more off the beaten track this summer.
You can go to Toronto anytime. You can go to Vancouver anytime, but you're not always going to go to, Wawa. And they're getting an experience that's very different.
It also might save them money. Wayne says all of this economic uncertainty right now has people looking for a deal and the comfort of a little Canadiana.
And they see that as being more in the small towns, places like Thunder Bay or Sudbury. And, when you go to Sudbury and visit the Big Nickel, it's one of those quintessential only Canadian things that you would do.
And if you're not close to Sudbury, how about going to see a big moose in Moose Jaw?
Mac the Moose is out front guarding the city. He's a 34-foot moose, and he's the tallest moose in Canada, or in the world. So it's kind of cool.
Donna Fritzke is the city's director of tourism. She says even for smaller communities, tourism is worth big bucks. She says last year it contributed $134 million to the local economy. And this year she's got high hopes for even more visitors. They're even offering free parking for people in RVs right outside the tourism office.
It's really kind of cool. And our parking lot, it's filling up already.
Can you see any RVs out the window now?
Goodness, my office is on the other side. But when I pulled up this morning, there was one, yes.
And as for Keith Folks of Winnipeg, he says he's still in the early phases of planning all the stops for his summer road trip. But he knows one thing, he won't be alone, staying closer to home.
And now's a good time to get off our butts and go see our local tourism spots.
For the Cost of Living, I'm Blair Sanderson.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes our world, staying on top of stories around the globe, and connected close to home. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
It is now 10 to 7 on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Thanks for joining us this morning on Information Radio, the morning show on CBC. It is partly cloudy and, I should say mostly sunny now. Just looking outside onto Portage Avenue, just a gorgeous spring day. We'll head for a high of 17 degrees in Winnipeg today. And let's look around the province for a moment. In Brandon today, your high is also 17. Lighter winds, though, than Winnipeg. We're going to be gusty up to 50 this afternoon. And then up in Thompson, clearing in a high of 7 degrees is what you're looking at. Thompson, by the way, right now is still at -4, so you're still below zero. Brandon's at 4 degrees, and Winnipeg is partly sunny, as we've been saying, and it is 9 degrees right now. Well, the pressure is on Prime Minister Mark Carney today. Carney's in Washington to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump, as you likely have been hearing. He landed yesterday. So this meeting comes just days after Trump appeared on Meet the Press and was asked if he would talk to Carney about Canada becoming the 51st state. Trump answered that he will, quote, always talk about that. This raises the question of how Carney will react if Trump repeats his 51st state rhetoric to Carney in front of the cameras of the world. For a closer look at this meeting, we have Alex Ballingall with us, Deputy Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
So what does Carney, the Prime Minister, need to accomplish at this meeting, do you think?
Well, I don't think anyone's expecting him to go down and sort of all this, they shake hands and it's resolved and everyone goes home happy. As you mentioned, Trump has been quite intransigent in his rhetoric about the 51st state and this argument that Canada should join the United States and that we're ripping them off on defense and on that they don't need any of our goods. I don't think that anyone really realistically expects Carney to go down and resolve all of that in one meeting. But I think a win for him might look like something like, on the campaign trail, he talked about we're going to win the trade war, that he has a plan to grow the Canadian economy and move through this. He talked about how the next prime minister would sit down with the Trump administration and renegotiate the trade and security relationship. So if he can kind of get a framework for those types of talks with the Trump administration and come home with like sort of a path forward potentially through all of this, then I think that's kind of the biggest win they can expect. Short of that, just getting through this unscathed and not having a dust up with Trump in front of the cameras or some sort of ambush, kind of in the style of what happened to Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. If Trump or if Carney can avoid something like that with Trump, that would also be, I think, perceived as a win for him.
If he can't avoid it, I mean, Canadians will be watching this closely, as will the world. But from the Canadian point of view, if anything about the 51st state comes up, it's a toss-up, right? Because do you want your prime minister to say that will never happen? Do you want your prime minister to just get up and leave respectfully? Or, I mean, it's a lot of people will be watching for mannerisms, dynamics, psychologically, how Donald Trump, the U.S. president, will be handled. Carney obviously is no stranger to having these conversations with world leaders because of his previous role as, Governor Bank of Canada and Governor Bank of England. But what do you think in terms of mannerism and relationship people will watch for today?
Well, I think that if Trump, when they're sitting in the Oval Office and the cameras are there and the reporters are there, if a discussion about Canadian sovereignty comes up and the 51st state, an annexation or whatever you want to call it comes up, I think you're right. The Canadians watching will want to see their prime minister really push back firmly and clearly on that to Trump's face, which, nobody's seen happen really yet. And so I think that's the moment of maximum potential drama and even potential peril for Carney in how he handles a moment like that. So I think that's the thing that a lot of people are watching for, that, if that does come up in a sort of direct way in front of the cameras, how the Canadian Prime Minister handles that, how he pushes back on that, and how Trump reacts to whatever Carney does about that. I don't know the answers to any of those questions, but that is something that everyone's going to be watching for very closely if that situation arises.
Let's turn our attention to something else here that's covered on World Report as well. The Conservative caucus meeting today. What will they be discussing?
Well, they'll be sifting through the ashes of their defeat. First of all, talking about why and how they lost, how the campaign went. We've seen a lot of that kind of discussion spill into the media already. Was that, the personnel around Polyev, was it the right personnel? Was it the right strategy? Did they run the right kind of campaign for this moment, especially with the tensions with the Trump administration and the United States? So I would expect them to be talking about that. Also, with Polyev not having a seat, losing his own seat, while he runs for a seat in Alberta, they're going to have to choose sort of a stand-in opposition leader to run things in the House of Commons for them. And then the final thing, I think, is the Reform Act, which is this legislation that, party caucuses on the Hill can give themselves the power to basically, replace their own leaders or defenestrate their own leaders. The Conservatives have adopted those powers in the past and did use them to get rid of Aaron O'Toole a few years ago. So, if they adopt those powers again this time around at this meeting, people like me and everybody on the Hill will be analyzing and asking questions about what that means for, Polyev's grip on the leadership, if anything.
Mhm.
So that's another thing to watch for.
To be clear here, is Polyev at this meeting, or because he's not elected, he's not?
I believe he is going to be there, yes.
Yep. What's the buzz about who could be interim leader?
The buzz right now is there's a lot of speculation about Andrew Scheer.
Hmm.
He's the Saskatchewan MP, former party leader who lost to Trudeau in 2019. Big kind of Polyev loyalist and has been supporting him quite vocally in the media since the election defeat for them. So we'll see, but there's a lot of chatter that it's likely to be Scheer.
All right, Alex, thank you very much for teeing up the Trump-Carney meeting and also talking about the Conservative meeting as well. Appreciate your time this morning.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Joining us via Zoom, that's Alice Ballingall. He's the Deputy Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star, and we'll hear more about the political analysis of these big gatherings, the big meeting, rather, today with the PM and the President, coming up on World Report. It is now 3 minutes to 7 o'clock, and that's when you'll hear World Report. First, we have local news headlines from Manitoba. Here again is Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba's Progressive Conservative Party disclosed a deficit on Obby Khan's first day in the Legislative Chamber as party leader. The party filed its annual return Monday. In 2024, it ran a deficit of $689,000. In that same year, the governing NDP posted a surplus of $835,000. Winnipeg businesses are excited for another round of whiteout street parties. The Jets face the Dallas Stars in Game 1 right here tomorrow night. A deeper playoff run means Ice Time Sports owner Michael Wynn had to place another order for white shirts and hoodies. And Will Galt, owner of Willie's Dogs, is going to take his hot dog cart to the downtown street party, hoping to generate even more business beyond the whiteout. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Right now, mostly sunny, 9 degrees, and it's going to be sunny for the day. Winds will be north 30 to 50, high 17. Your commute's going fine. 788-3093 if you need to reach us. In the next hour of Information Radio, church attendance is going down in Canada, and charitable giving is on the decline as well. Our faith columnist will be here to talk about the relationship between the two. In addition, it's blue, it's covered in hockey sticks, and it's gassed up and ready for round 2 of the playoffs. Up next, we'll hear from the Manitoban behind the Jets mobile. I shouldn't say up next. That's coming up at 7:40. Corey's actually going to go outside and have a look at this thing. It's a 1971 vehicle, so we'll find out more about it and how long it's been kicking around and who drives it. There's a photo of it, little preview if you're watching on YouTube. And then coming up at 10 to 8 this morning on the show, Know Thy Enemy. We're going to find out more about what the Jets are specifically up against when they do face the Dallas Stars tomorrow night. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at Information Radio. Brad Lillies, Corey Funk, and Abby Adiemi behind the glass. Stay with all of us because World Report's coming up next, and then we're back with more show. Stay tuned.
Today on The Current.
Many Iranians have moved on, eager to step out of isolation and beyond past stereotypes.
The CBC's Margaret Evans has been on a rare reporting trip to Iran, and among the surprising things she saw, a lot of women not wearing headscarves despite the threat of severe consequences. Margaret Evans in Iran, coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Prime Minister Mark Carney is just hours away from a reception at the White House. His meeting today with U.S. President Donald Trump is more than just lunch. It could set the tone for relations between the two countries for years to come. Canadian businesses are watching closely. Every day, those businesses do billions of dollars in trade with the U.S. Senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong has more.
The Canada-U.S. economic relationship is the envy of the world. It encompasses more than $1 trillion a year in two-way trade. But Donald Trump has said he doesn't want or need anything Canada sells and shrugged when asked what may come from today's meeting.
What's your expectation for your meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister tomorrow?
I don't know. He's coming to see me. I'm not sure what he wants to see me about, but I guess he wants to make a deal. Everybody does. They all want to make a deal because we have something that they all want.
Not surprisingly, the expectations are low. Candice Lang, CEO of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, says the key goal is for the Prime Minister and the President to reset relations and set the stage for a better line of communication if and when negotiations get underway.
It is important that I think these two leaders have a good connection established where communication and follow-ups are easy.
But even that relatively modest goal will take hard work, good timing, and perhaps a bit of luck in what has become an incredibly volatile Oval Office. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Washington.
Tariffs are front and center for the new Liberal government, but not just with the United States. Last year, Canada implemented an additional 100% tariff on electric vehicles from China. And China responded with counter tariffs. As Lisa Shing tells us, farmers are some of the people wanting a rethink.
We're the ones taking the brunt of the hit right now.
Andre Harp, chair of the Canadian Canola Growers Association, says farmers will suffer if Ottawa doesn't scrap its 100% tariff on Chinese EVs.
We have a new Canadian government coming in. As job one, I would really like to see him deal with these tariffs.
The trade war heated up after Canada followed the U.S. in levying the tariffs on electric vehicles from China last fall. In retaliation, China implemented a similar surtax on Canadian canola oil and meal, and 25% on seafood and pork.
Tariffs on China is kind of cutting off our nose to spite our face.
University of Toronto political science professor Jessica Green says it's a policy that doesn't make much sense, especially considering the fractured Canada-U.S. relationship and our climate goals.
If we want to decarbonize, we need China, full stop.
But Canada has poured tens of billions of dollars into fostering a domestic EV supply chain. And Brian Kingston, head of the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association, warns lifting the tariff will sacrifice those efforts.
We can absolutely not undermine our own industrial base by allowing these vehicles into the Canadian market.
Though critics like Green say there are other ways to protect the industry, like having a time limit on the tariffs. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Pierre Poilievre is promising his Conservative caucus he will learn and grow as a leader.
Well, it's been about a week since the election, and it didn't go how we wanted. But when you get knocked down, you get up and get going.
He posted that video on social media just as Conservative MPs are scheduled to meet today in Ottawa. They will plot the party's course forward, including considering who will take over as opposition leader in the House of Commons. Poilievre can't do that unless he runs and wins in a by-election. And today, caucus members could discuss whether to call for a review of his leadership. The federal NDP, meanwhile, have chosen an interim leader to replace Jagmeet Singh, and Singh resigned on election night. For now, Vancouver MP Don Davies will be filling that role. Germany was supposed to get a new chancellor today, but there's been a surprising upset.
Mitgliederzahl 630, ungültiger Stimmzettel.
That is the president of Germany's parliament reading out MP votes. Friedrich Merz was expected to be confirmed as chancellor. He is the leader of a majority coalition. But he was defeated by just 6 votes. That is something that has not happened in Germany since the Second World War. The Bundestag now has 14 days to elect a candidate with an absolute majority. Merz can run again, but so can other lawmakers. If none of them gets a majority in the next 2 weeks, the president can appoint the frontrunner as chancellor or call another election. The United Nations is raising significant concerns about Israel's war plans in Gaza. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced yesterday his country will intensify its military operation in the Palestinian territory. That includes holding on to seized territory and displacing hundreds of thousands of people. As Anna Cunningham reports, it is still not clear if this plan will force Hamas back to the negotiating table or embolden them.
In Tel Aviv, Israeli government spokesman David Mensa is clarifying Israel's new strategy.
It's not occupation, the expanding and holding of territories and moving the Gazan population south for its own defence.
Israel says its increased military activity is designed to pressure Hamas into releasing the remaining dozens of Israeli hostages and return to ceasefire negotiations. There have been conflicting messages released by Hamas, one senior official telling media the group is no longer interested in truce talks, another saying Hamas is open to a long-term truce of 5 to 7 years with Israel. Either way, the UN says it is concerned about Israel's plans. Farhan Haq is deputy spokesperson for the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres.
I can tell you that the Secretary-General is alarmed by these reports of Israeli plans to expand ground operations.
For 2 months, Israel has enforced a blockade on aid into Gaza. But it says this new plan to move hundreds of thousands south includes aid hubs in Rafah to be run by private companies. Olga Cherevko is a spokesperson for the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs.
This contravenes humanitarian principles, as this would basically shut down the existing aid delivery mechanism.
In Israel, tens of thousands of call-up orders are already being sent to reservists to join the expanding operations in Gaza. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says Russia plans to go ahead with its 3-day ceasefire with Ukraine. This coincides with the 80th anniversary of Russia's victory over Nazi Germany. The ceasefire is expected to take effect on Thursday, but overnight, Ukraine and Russia traded drone attacks. Firefighters try to hose down flames at a local market in Kharkiv. The mayor of the Ukrainian city says the building was hit early this morning. Russian officials say Kyiv fired more than 100 drones across the country overnight, including at Moscow, where airports shut down. The task of electing a new pope is about to begin. Some 133 cardinals are taking part in the conclave to replace Pope Francis. The vast majority of cardinals involved in the secretive vote were appointed by Francis. He was praised for being more inclusive towards the 2S LGBTQ+ community, even if he did not change the church's doctrine. But as Briar Stewart reports, the issue remains a divisive one among many Catholics.
Cardinals arrive at the Vatican for a general congregation meeting ahead of the conclave. Tomorrow they'll meet to elect a new pope, a leader who will steer the hierarchical Catholic Church.
So I don't think that we can come back to the Church of John Paul II and Benedict XVI.
Marco Grieco is an Italian journalist who covers the Vatican and 2S LGBTQ+ issues. He says Francis's time as Pope signaled a big shift in tone, but he ultimately didn't change any of the Catholic Church's doctrine, which still considers same-sex sexual activity a sin.
Pope Francis opened the door, and so we must open more.
During his papacy, the Vatican allowed priests to bless same-sex unions, a measure seen as controversial among more conservative religious leaders, including several bishops from Africa, which is one of the areas where the Catholic Church continues to grow.
The Catholic Church is a big tent, and the tent is held together by its tension.
Peter Baltutis is an associate professor of history and religious studies at St. Mary's University in Calgary. He sees the divide firsthand in his class, which is made up of students who want the Catholic Church to be more progressive and those who think it should stick with its traditional doctrine.
So I think whoever the Pope is, that Pandora's box has been opened. And in order for the Church to be relevant, it needs to be thinking about and talking about and addressing these issues.
And Baltutis says if instead the next Pope chooses to stay silent on these issues, that too will speak volumes. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello there, Winnipeg. Thanks for joining us this morning. We're going to have a nice sunny day in Winnipeg, although right now in the downtown, the cloud cover seems to have won. We've been at 9 degrees. We'll update that in a moment. This is CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. The show is Information Radio, your morning show. This hour on the show, our faith contributor is going to be in studio to talk about a shift in who is giving to charity in Canada. As church attendance goes down, so does charitable giving. So what is the connection? In addition, it's blue, it's covered in hockey sticks, and it's gassed up and ready to roll for round 2 of the playoffs that start tomorrow night. We're going to talk to the Manitoban behind the Jetsmobile. In fact, Corey's going to head out and check this thing out. The owner is driving it to the studio right now. And then at 10 to 8, we're going to get a deeper look at the Dallas Stars and what our chances are as the series gets ready to begin. Stay tuned. Heather Wells is in now with our headlines.
Good morning. Well, Winnipeg is trying to take advantage of the Winnipeg Jets' moment in the spotlight to promote tourism to this city. Industry experts say the effort is already paying off. Martin Fisher at Show and Tell Advertising says just one Jets game, like Sunday's series-winning match against St. Louis, can be worth millions, what he calls Super Bowl kind of money. We'll hear more about that. And Manitoba's premier says he will not seek the federal NDP leadership. Kinew spoke for the first time since his national counterparts were decimated in last week's federal election. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
To Abby Adiemi now in our weather today.
9 degrees in Winnipeg, partly cloudy conditions, a bit of sun peeking through those cloudy skies you're seeing out there. As we move through the morning, the clouds will start to clear out and then making a way for the sunny day we're expecting. It feel cooler at first, but we then warm up to that high of 17 degrees, and across the southern regions from the Red River, Pembina, Westman, Parkland, Interlake region, we're seeing temperatures between 5 and 9 degrees. But up north, it's still cold. We're seeing minus 12 in Churchill.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, the commute.
Very quiet commute overall out there. I haven't heard of any major issues, but if you're walking, biking, driving, you see something going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, up next on CBC, in the charity community, they are known as the generous generation. We're talking about older Canadians and many who also go to church on a regular basis and give a significant amount of their money to charity every year. But they're getting even older, and the generations of Canadians coming up behind them go to church less often, if at all, and give much less to charity. It's causing some anxiety among Canadian charities. John Longhurst is our regular faith contributor. He's been looking into this. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So how does religion affect giving?
Study after study shows that the more religious someone is, the more they tend to give, and the more often they give. In 2018, the latest figures that are available from Statistics Canada, 91% of people who went to religious services gave about $1,284 on average to charity. Meantime, the most of those who didn't attend religious services at all, they gave about $313 on average to charity. In other words, the more you go to a worship service of any kind, the more you tend to give to charity. And the less you attend worship services, the less you give. And that's a concern for all charities, not just religious ones, because religious people give very generously to many, many groups.
Why does going to religious services affect giving?
Well, there are a couple reasons, one of which is if you go to religious services on a regular basis, you're going to hear about the needs of the world through sermons, through sharing, through songs, through prayers. In the bulletin, for example, that there's a need somewhere, there was a natural disaster, and there will be an appeal to give. Plus, you're just going to see the collection plate being passed back and forth, and it's going to give you an opportunity to give, but remind you about the importance of giving. But another main reason is that all religions, it doesn't matter which one, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, Christian, Sikh, it doesn't matter, they all teach the obligation, the duty, the religious duty of giving to help those who are needy. That is something that is paramount to all religions. And so if you are religious and if you go to religious services, you're going to be reminded of that obligation on a regular basis. So that's something that keeps people giving and reminds them to keep giving to help those in need.
And that's created a worry in the charitable giving sector. So what's the situation facing charities today?
So right now, charities find themselves in an interesting predicament. Fewer Canadians than ever before are giving to charity. The finding of a new report by Imagine Canada, which is an umbrella group for Canadian charities, found that from 1997 to 2022, there was a drop in the number of people who claimed an income tax deduction when giving to charity. And of course, these would be the people who are giving the most to charity. It went from 26% in 1997 to 17.1% in 2022. And according to Imagine Canada, that is an unbroken trend, a decline in the number of people who are giving significant amounts of money to charity. And these are the people who make the biggest donations to charities.
Does it mean that charities overall are getting less money?
So that's an interesting thing. No, they're actually not. Fewer people are giving, but they're giving more. And the amount is rising. In fact, it peaked at $11.8 billion in 2021 before falling to $11.4 billion in 2022. And that's good news. Good news that charities are getting the money they need. But the bad news is that most of that money is coming from older donors and fewer donors. 71% of donations came from 9% of Canadian donors who gave $5,000 or more during that time period. And the problem, as I said, is that those people are getting older.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1997, 42% of donations came from people 60 years of age and older. In 2022, that number was 60% from that age group giving money. So donors are not getting younger, and it won't be too long before what we call the generous generation, grandparents and parents, the people older than us, will be gone, and they won't be giving the same amounts to charity. And that means charities might find themselves in a real predicament as the dollars dry up.
I'm sure, most of us know what charities in Canada do somewhat, but can you describe, the impact that charities have on people in our country?
It's hidden unless there's a disaster or a predicament, right? When suddenly there's an appeal. When we hear something from Manitoba Harvest that they don't have enough carrots or potatoes or soup or something, and suddenly there's a run on food banks, then it makes the news. Otherwise, it just sort of hums below the surface and we don't think about it until there's an emergency of some kind. But charities in this country are keeping a lot of things going, particularly as governments have offloaded a lot of the services that they might otherwise do onto charities. So, for example, Manitoba Harvest is the second oldest food bank organization in Canada. It was started in 1986. And when it was started, I remember David Northcott telling me they thought it was temporary. We'll just do this for a year or two to get us through the crisis. Well, here we are, 40 years later, and it is a permanent fixture in our society, as are food banks right across this country. Whoever imagined such a thing? But now they are part of the structure, part of our infrastructure, and how we cope with things in this country.
And Harvest Manitoba and across the country also had, of course, as we know, historic years last year with food bank
and
use.
Needs keep rising. Yeah. And now with tariffs, who knows, right?
So let's return to sort of the younger generations. Why are younger people giving less?
Well, various factors, of course. Less disposable income, high housing prices, the high prices for almost everything. But fewer of them are going to church or mosque or gurdwara or temple or synagogue as well. And so that teaching that teaching about religious obligations, the need to care for those who are needy, is just not being passed down the same way. If you ask someone who's over the age of 65, where did you learn to be generous? Where did you start giving to charity? They probably will say something like Sunday school, when mom or dad gave them a quarter or a dime and said, you put this in the collection basket, because that's what we do as Christians, as Jews, as Muslims, as whatever. And that simply isn't being passed along the same way anymore.
So what can be done about it?
Well, we're not going to return to the 1950s and 60s when most Canadians went to church. That's not going to happen. So we're going to have to create something new, some new way of passing along the importance of being a responsible citizen in our country and thinking about those who have less and who are needy. And what that is, I can't say. I don't have the ideas or the answers right now. But what I do know is that the charitable sector needs to take this seriously, and they are. But the new government also can play a role. They could convene some meetings, bring together charities, and have spaces where people can talk about how do we pass along the information that people need to have about the needs in their community. And if those kinds of meetings are convened, I think they need to invite the faith communities as well to join them.
John, thank you very much for this.
You bet. Thank you.
That is John Longhurst. I spoke with him yesterday in studio. He's our regular faith contributor. Now, I'm wondering whether or not this column has you thinking about your own giving. What makes you give to charity? Where did you learn that principle, or why do you have that in your life? And if you wish, what do you support and why? How do you choose? So what makes you give? 204-788-3205. If you want to call us, we'll get some of your listener lines on the show after 8 o'clock. Right now it is 7:21. We have morning sports coming up in a moment. It is 9 degrees in Winnipeg. We've been there all morning and it's mostly cloudy. Well, later this morning on Q, Tom Power talks with Rose Cousins about her new album. It's called Conditions of Love, Volume 1, and it looks at the complicated ways that we relate to one another. Here's Rose Cousins with I Believe in Love.
I know that love is hard to find. You wanna be the lake, you wanna be the one to shine, but feelings we feel are hard to define. I know that love is hard to keep into our delicate minds. The doubt begins to creep, rudely disrupting our movie scene. I believe in love. I believe in love. I know in love it's hard to be everything that someone else could ever need, while holding on to wild and free. Wild and free. Wild and free. Wild and free. Wild and free.
that's nice. Rose Cousins with I Believe in Love. Catch our conversation with host Tom Power this morning on Q on CBC Radio 1. Starts at 10 o'clock. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to CBC This Morning on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or on YouTube. Thanks for joining the morning show. And I have to say, if you are not watching on YouTube, you might want to hook that up if you're in a place where you can watch and listen. Because coming up after our sports, we're going to send Corey outside and he's going to bring us an interview with a guest that's just arrived. He is the owner of the Jetsmobile. And this car is... all things Jets. So there's visuals of it, and it's going to be here. It is here, I think, already. He's already just pulled into our CBC parking lot in downtown Winnipeg. So stay tuned. We'll find out how this came to be and where does he drive this thing, the Jetsmobile. Of course, we have one more sleep until the Jets game tomorrow night, the beginning of round 2. Scott Reguer joins us now with Morning Sports on CBC. Hi there.
Hi, and I'm glad you weren't telling listeners, tune into YouTube. We have sports coming up with Scott because I'm in my old green sweater this morning. I'm glad you didn't do that. I'm glad this is about the Jetsmobile.
I like your old green sweater. It looks comfy.
Well, it's nothing if not lived in.
It's the best, right? All right, let's talk about what else is going on in the NHL. We have to wait till tomorrow for our series to start, but lots of action last night.
Yeah, for sure. And just to, with the latest where the Jets are concerned, they didn't practice yesterday, understandable after the emotional and physical toll of that double OT thriller the other night. They have an optional practice today. Be interesting to see how many people turn up for that. But Scott Arniel obviously wants his players as well rested as possible heading into the big series tomorrow against the Dallas Stars. Now, with respect to last night, the Maple Leafs, Marcy, got off to a nice start to their second round with a win, but it came at a cost. That 5-4 victory over Florida saw Toronto lose starting goalie Anthony Stolarz to injury. Stolarz was pulled from the game after he was seen vomiting at the bench. He was then taken by stretcher out of the rink and to hospital with a suspected concussion. Now, it's unclear when he got hurt. Stolarz took a puck to the face in the first period, which knocked off his mask. And then in the second period, Florida forward Sam Bennett appeared to elbow him in the side of the head. No penalty was called on that play, which Leafs coach Craig Berube was asked about.
Elbow to the head, yeah, clearly, yeah, clear as day. I'm not sure why there's not a call on it, but, I get it. They miss calls, but it's clearly a penalty.
For his part, Florida coach and former Jets coach Paul Maurice says it's the refs who have the best view.
Standing right there, he saw it. So, coach is coach. You know what? We're hopeful for Anthony and his health. Like, we love that guy, and we hope he gets better real fast.
Maurice, of course, knows Stolarz very well since they were both with the Panthers last year. But as much as Paul says he hopes the goalie returns, quote-unquote, real fast, it obviously benefits the Panthers if he doesn't. And so how is the NHL going to deal with Sam Bennett? This is the third time in his career he's knocked an opponent out of the playoffs. His cheap shots have resulted in Matthew Nyes and Brad Marchand getting concussions in past years. Although his elbow to Stolarz's head last night doesn't look overly bad in the replays, Bennett did know the goalie was hurt earlier in the game. He's a veteran. And he did make contact with Stolarz in his crease, a no-no. One way or another, though, it is a shame Bennett's headlining this series because I got to hand it to the Leafs. They played their best first period of the entire season yesterday and have taken a lead against the defending Stanley Cup champs. Pretty good stuff. The Oilers will look for a strong start, too. They begin their second-round series in Vegas tonight against the Golden Knights.
Nothing about players being out because they're hurt like that is good. I mean, in Winnipeg, we're all feeling the Shifley still, right?
Of course, yeah.
All right, let's go to the NBA playoffs now, Scott. Canada's two best point guards are doing battle.
They are. Kitchener's Jamal Murray getting the better of Hamilton's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander last night. Murray and his Denver Nuggets topped Gilgeous-Alexander's Oklahoma City Thunder on a buzzer beater. A surprising turn at the end of the game because it was Oklahoma City behind 33 points from Gilgeous-Alexander, who really dominated this Western semifinal opener. They will play Game 2 tomorrow.
And finally, there's a big afternoon in soccer ahead of us, right?
Yeah, by the end of it, Marcia, we'll know one side that'll play in the Champions League final. It'll be Barcelona or Inter Milan after they played to a 3-3 thriller of a deadlock in the first leg. So hopefully more of the same today. But that is hoped for inspiration. Here's a sure thing, Marcy. After his Olympic medals were destroyed in the LA wildfires, swimming great Gary Hall Jr. had them replaced yesterday. In an unprecedented ceremony, the IOC made a new set of the 10 medals that Hall won at the Atlanta, Sydney, and Athens Games. Halls, who was able to save his dog Puddles from the fire, but not much else, expressed his appreciation this way.
We live in a time of capitalism and consumerism, and you realize when you lose everything, how little of it you truly need. The value of friends outweighs the value of objects. Character cannot be taken away. It cannot be burned. It cannot be lost.
And that is your look at sports.
That's a nice way to end it, Scott. Thanks for that. Yeah.
You bet.
Take care. We'll talk to you tomorrow. That's Scott Rigger with CBC Sports. Your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is 9 degrees and normal feels cool in Winnipeg. We are back to normal. Gone is that heat. Today's high, a windy 17, but we warm back up starting tomorrow. Winnipeg is trying to take advantage of the Winnipeg Jets' moment in the spotlight to promote tourism to the city. And industry experts say the effort is already paying off. Economic Development Winnipeg brought 10 social media creators to this city as part of its promotion campaign. The agency says those posts have generated about 58 million views, worth about $2 million. Martin Fisher, CEO of the Show and Tell advertising agency, says just one Jets game, like Sunday's series winning match against St. Louis, can be worth millions.
You probably would end up having to spend about $1.5 to $2 million to get the number of eyeballs that would have seen that on an almost North American basis. So you're kind of into Super Bowl kind of money.
Now, Winnipeg businesses are also excited for another round of whiteout street parties. The Jets face the Dallas Stars. The deeper playoff run means Ice Time Sports owner Michael Wynn has had to place another order for white shirts and hoodies. He says his whiteout design, which takes inspiration from the movie Top Gun, has been a top seller.
I ordered 100 hoodies and 100 T-shirts, and it's quite it's funny because hoodies are still hot even though the warmer weather is coming, but everyone likes to wear the hoodies. You know, it gets a little cooler in the rink and at night for the parties.
Will Galt, owner of Willie's Dogs, is going to take his hot dog cart to the downtown street party. He says it's a chance to showcase his food and maybe even generate more spin-off sales beyond the whiteout, like corporate events or school barbecues. First game of round 2 against the Dallas Stars goes tomorrow night at Canada Life Centre. Manitoba's premier says he will not seek the federal NDP leadership. Wab Kinew spoke for the first time since his national counterparts were decimated in last week's federal election. The NDP's been reduced to just 7 seats in the House of Commons, losing official party status. Manitoba lost 2 of its 3 NDP seats. Jagmeet Singh lost his own seat in BC and resigned as party leader. The premier says he was disappointed in the federal party's showing, but Kinew says he also has no interest in replacing Singh.
Manitobans have given me the best job in the world, and you've given me at a time where there's a huge threat and uncertainty to our province, which is the threat of the Trump tariffs. And so I fully intend to carry out this amazing job that I've been asked to perform as premier.
Last night, the federal NDP chose Vancouver Kingsway MP Don Davies to be interim leader. Manitoba's Progressive Conservative Party disclosed a deficit on Obby Khan's first day in the Legislative Chamber as party leader. The party filed its annual return yesterday. In 2024, it ran a deficit of $689,000. In that same year, the governing NDP posted a surplus of $835,000. Khan says he plans to spend the summer raising money and getting the PCs ready for the next provincial election. Well, Canada's relationship with the United States will be front and center today. Prime Minister Mark Carney is meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House. It is the two leaders' first official sit-down since Carney was voted into office. Tariffs and Trump's desire to annex Canada will likely add to the intensity of this meeting. Pierre Poilievre is telling his Conservative caucus he is willing and eager to continue as party leader.
Well, it's been about a week since the election, and it didn't go how we wanted. But when you get knocked down, you get up and get going.
Social media message Poilievre posted overnight. It comes as Conservative MPs meet today in Ottawa. And while it appears doubtful, the caucus could trigger a secret ballot vote on his leadership. At the very least, the party will discuss who will serve as leader in the House of Commons. Poilievre won't be able to return to the House until he wins a seat in a by-election. People in Thompson are getting a free chance to learn skilled trades like woodworking and welding. Skills Shop North hosts a variety of free workshops in trade skills. The new nonprofit is also giving people the opportunity to come in on their own time and work on their own projects. Heather Hildebrand recently took part in a woodworking workshop. She made a cutting board with a design she created.
I got sort of a crazy dog person. And I have an Irish Wolfhound at home, and he's my baby. So I put his name on. I put him on there, and first I knit around him, so I'll always have something of him.
Once certified, the equipment inside the shop, people can use the space whenever it's open, free of charge. You can find more national and international news coming up on World Report at 8, and more, as always, on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks very much, Heather.
You're welcome.
Heather Wells in our news department this morning, live on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us here on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. And do tune into YouTube right now, because Corey's about to come to us live from outside the building. But first, let's check what it's like out there in Winnipeg and elsewhere, because it's time for our regional forecast with Abby.
Good morning once again. We won't be seeing the 30 degrees today, though, but it will be sunny and a cooler day across the province from the Red River Valley all the way to the northern edge of the province. Right now in Winnipeg, 9 degrees, partly cloudy conditions we're seeing. We see the sun peeking through. The skies will clear up as you get into your lunch hour period, setting the tone for a bright sunny afternoon. Breezy winds will come from the north. It will keep things feeling cool, and then we'll be warming up to a high of 17 degrees today. In the Pembina Valley region, similar to Winnipeg, we're going to see more than Winkler out in the Morris, seeing temperatures around 8 and 9 degrees at this time. A mix of sun and clouds in the forecast. Expect the skies to clear later. Breeze will be coming from the north and will warm up to 19 degrees. In western Manitoba, Brandon is waking up to sunshine and 5 degrees. Expect the sunny skies through the day. High will get to 17. Winds from the north gets breezy at times. Tonight you dropped around 0. Dauphin is at 5 and clear at this time. Some sunny conditions you're enjoying also there. It's going to stay sunny for most of the day. You'll warm up to 16 degrees. And in Gimli, 8 degrees at this point for the Interlake region. Expect sunshine throughout the day. High around 13 degrees. The powerful influence around in areas -1, Thompson -4, and Churchill -12. Light snow still falling in that part of the province. But right now, Winnipeg, we're still at 9 degrees, and it's going to be a sunny afternoon.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
In traffic, we just got a call from Jason Carter. He said, remind people, the Moray Bridge, due to the closure there, southbound bridge closure, what is happening is the west side walkway is also impacted and closed, but they put the barriers so close there that people are really finding a way going underneath, trying to get through the cloverleaf, and he says they're ending up having to double back. So it's an issue there if you're an active commuter, specifically that westbound walkway, west side walkway over the Moray Street Bridge, because it's closed southbound, is affecting active commuters this morning. So it is a beautiful morning, as Abby said, for active commuting, but that area a problem. Update anything on the commute that you want to by calling this number. It's 788-3093, and you can reach us here at CBC. Well, it's 22 minutes now to 8 o'clock, and it is hard to miss our next guest's vehicle. Dan Nolan and his Jetsmobile get attention around town. If you've been to a playoff game or even just been downtown during a game, there's a high chance you've seen and you've heard him drive by. Over the years, Dan and his car have become a playoff staple. Since 2015, he's been decorating his Jetsmobile. It's a 1971 Chevy Vega wagon. all things Jets all over it, including a homemade Stanley Cup replica on the roof. The car only gets more and more decorated each year. So what's it going to look like after round 2 of these playoffs? Well, let's see what we're going in with before we start round 2 tomorrow. So he is here. Dan is here. He's parked out back at our CBC parking lot. CBC's Corey Funk is out there right now live and standing in front of this big blue Vega. Hi, guys.
Hello, hello. Hey, Marcy. Yeah, we are out here. Hey, Dan, how's it going?
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
So, Dan, first off, well, you are probably like the biggest Jets fan I've ever seen, because not only are you decked out right now in a full Jets helmet, as well as a full Jets suit, everything top to bottom, but so is your car. Just tell us what we're looking at right now when we look at your car.
Well, it's a 71 Chevy Vega wagon. It's a Winnipeg car. I've had it for 12 years.
Yeah.
And I just keep having fun with it. It's just one of my hot rods that I drive around with.
So wait, let's walk over here with me for a second here, Dan. So up here, we can see there's this big old Stanley Cup up top. There's a guy, there's a helmet, there's lots going on. Just tell me a little bit about some of the decorations on you. Let's start with the Stanley Cup, because that's quite something. How long has that been there for?
Oh, that's been in there and hasn't blown off yet coming down the highway. I don't know. It's been there about 3 years now. We made it. It's a solid bowl on the top, and I got shifts there on top of the siren. The siren I bought off of Facebook from this guy. I went in my pajamas to get it because it was for sale and he was nearby, and I needed it and wanted it. And I've had the car now. I got some lighting, rope lighting around the sides. I bought this off this wooden plane off of Facebook. The wipers, I just put the hockey sticks on. I started off with just these magnets way back when, 7 years ago. And then I've just progressed ever since and put the hubcaps on. I made those. Well, you buy these, and then I ended up just siliconing them in there and add the hockey sticks.
And then you've been doing this for how many years now?
Well, about 7 years total. 7 years total, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow. And tell me a little bit about how this all started. Like, what's the like what made you start making this car?
Well, my employee bought me a Winnipeg Jets license plate, and the car to me is blue. People say it's green, but it's turquoise, whatever they want to call it. And but it's blue to me, so we put the license plate on it. So the first thing and that's the first year the Jets made the playoffs. So I went and got these magnets, stuck them on there, and ever since then I just keep on going.
And just tell me a little bit about some of the reactions that you get from people while you're driving this thing around. Like, you must love just looking through people's windows and seeing how they're staring at your car.
Oh, it's like crazy. It's amazing. I get smiles everywhere you look. It's smiles. It's such a blast.
You see, you're actually getting a bit emotional. Why is that?
Well, it's fun. It's fun. My friend Richard got into a game, the last game, first game in his life. Some guy said to us, "Hey, you want one ticket? Who wants to go?" So I told him, "Go." So he went in there first time in his life. So for that game, awesome.
Sounds like this car has come to mean a lot to you, and played a big role in your life, actually.
Well, grandkids love it. The little kids love it. It's just fun. It's just so much fun.
And you're also a staple at the whiteout parties too, aren't you?
Oh yeah. We go to every one of them. We're there. We'll be there, and the kids come up. They want pictures, and I don't worry about people touching it. When I park it downtown, even the police, if it's parked in a taxi stand, I don't pay for parking. I just leave it there and walk away from it. And at one point, people were wondering, is it going to get damaged? And I thought, well, I got to have faith in people. And I could probably park this down in Main Street right now, walk away from it, and people will just leave it alone. They take pictures with it. I don't care if they lean on it and take a picture. It doesn't bother me at all. It's great.
And you've got this helmet here for passengers as well. Can I try it on here? 1 second here.
Well, sure
hold
you
the
can.
mic for me for a second.
Sure
Anyway,
you can.
Tell me what Tell me what this helmet's all about here. Here, I'm probably going to pop it on here. So this is what's this? Tell me about the story behind this helmet here. It's like beautifully airbrushed. Look at this.
Yes, I just got that done. And it was a nice job. We got crappie put on the back here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We got Mickey Mouse on one side.
Yeah.
And Benny. And then I got crappie done on this side. And then on this helmet, I had, I don't know when I did it, a few years. I got Dancing Gabe on it. And hey, who's the best pilot there ever was, eh? Gotta have Snoopy.
Got to.
Still gotta have Snoopy.
Okay. Well, before we end this interview, let's hop in the car. You go hop in the driver's seat here because we got to hear this car in action too. Because like you said, you got a siren that you got off Facebook that you bought in your pajamas. Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. Oh wait, we'll hop in here. We can't even hear you. Come in the car. Tell me more about it. 1 second. Okay, this
Corey's getting in the car.
Whole bars in it. Oh gosh. Okay, sorry, folks on YouTube. It's probably. Oh my gosh, lots going on. Come on in here, Dan. So this thing is like, it's pretty simple on the inside actually, but you do have, I see a Jets cowboy hat in the back, a couple figurines going on as well. But let's just hear what this thing sounds like.
Turn the switch on the back.
Okay, lots going on. This is a very busy car. We got Mickey Mouse squeezed in here on the dashboard too.
It's okay. We're enjoying it. We're loving you in that helmet. That
sorry, I wish I could hear you, but I'm currently wearing a.
We know. It's okay.
A big old helmet.
Okay, Corey's going to wrap up. Presumably, we're going to hear this car now.
Oh,
Everybody
sorry.
ready?
Here we go. Here, you're going to start this car battery up here. Oh yeah. Doesn't that thing rev?
I can't hear anything. Live radio. Live radio. We're hearing nothing.
Jets go! I hope everybody ain't mad for waking them up in the morning. We'll call it there. Thanks a lot there, Dan. Oh, great, hey.
Thank you, guys.
Go, Jets, go! Back to you, Marcy.
So, in the magic of radio here, they were actually playing the siren and playing it. It was very loud out there. On the radio, you might have sort of missed that. That's because they were popped in the car. So, outside the car, it would have been really loud. But what a lot of fun. I love that he got emotional, though, with his friend, getting into the game for the very first time. Imagine that experience during the playoff run. Just amazing. So, you're going to see that Jetsmobile out. Certainly for round 2 of the playoffs that begin tomorrow night. We're going to tee up, by the way, what our chances actually are in a couple minutes. But that's Corey Funk, who's been out in the Jetsmobile with Dan Nolan, who owns the car, and he's a super fan. They were out back live in our CBC parking lot.
Ever hear a really good radio show and fall in love right away? Fall in love at first listen with the CBC Listen app. Find CBC radio shows like As It Happens and Now or Never and stream them anytime, anywhere for free. Download CBC Listen today.
It is 7:46 a.m. and really looks nice out there. Just looking Corey out back there. Beautiful blue sky today in Winnipeg. Right now it's 9 degrees. We've been there all morning. Well, we had a column on at just after 7 o'clock, our faith contributor. And in his column today on CBC, he talked about the relationship between church attendance in Canada going down and then charitable giving also being on the decline as well, and what the relationship was between those two things. It prompted us to ask you why you give.
Lisa Backstead, I learned all about giving in church, not to steal, not to lie, and to think about other people. I went to church until I was 16, and then after that I started working part-time, plus school. Anyways, I totally believe going to church made me what I am. I'm in my 70s, and I'm still thinking about other people, even before myself a lot of times. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carolia Vargskar, and I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba on Treaty 1. I just wanted to weigh in on the charity conversation. I'm a senior leader in the nonprofit sector and not part of a faith community, but charity has always been a part of my life, and it started with my mother at the intersection of Memorial and Broadway. When I was a teenager, I worked at a call center, and she would pick me up and drive me home, and she would have some food for me, but she would also bring some for whoever was standing at that intersection, because there are frequently people who are probably, relatives that are living unhoused or that are trying to travel to Winnipeg for a certain reason. and there's a lot of abuse and violence that they endure living unhoused and being on that corner. And she just always set that example for me. So that's always been a part of my life. I'm 40 years old, I think an elder millennial, and I'm a monthly donor at 5 charities, 2 national and 3 local. Thanks for listening.
Hi, it's Avram Sharak here. So where did I learn to give and why do I give? I learned from my parents, who are always very involved in our community and in our place of worship. They taught me the importance of giving. So as your columnist said, indeed, I do go to synagogue regularly, and that is one of the places where we learn how important it is to give back to society. What do I donate to? A lot of things. I donate to Folk Warama. I donate to causes for the Jewish community. I donate to secular causes, to accounting. Anything that I see is appropriate. Let me back that up. If you don't mind, we'll start again. It's Avram Sharak here. I learned to give from my parents, both of whom showed me the importance of community and who actually took me to synagogue as well. I'm still a regular synagogue goer. I learn a lot from there. And the question of where do I give to? Well, I give to a whole bunch of things. I give to things that my synagogue feels are important. I give to a lot of secular organizations as well.
Pardon us, Avram. We missed a slight edit there. I know you were backing up to collect your thoughts there, but really thoughtful calls from all of our listeners this morning on this idea around giving. This was part of our faith columns. They were looking at sort of the premise, and John Longhurst, our columnist, did have some stats around this, was looking at how the older generations are, in decline, and often they're the ones that give the most. And there's a correlation between giving and faith, people who are people of faith giving. And then in younger generations, you often have people that aren't going to church, so to speak, or aren't going to a synagogue, and then the giving goes down. So this was sort of the premise of the column. It was 8 minutes. You can go back and check it out. But we asked you, why do you give and how do you give? So that's what prompted those really thoughtful calls. We'd love it if you want to weigh in. So 788-3205. You can still give us a call, 788-3205. But up next.
Kenew shoots, tip, they score! Game over! Series over!
Deafening, right? Wow, what a way to end a series. So just when you thought the playoff hockey couldn't get more exciting, a whole new challenge awaits the Winnipeg Jets. They kick off round 2 against the Dallas Stars tomorrow night here in Winnipeg after that amazing double overtime goal that came. The goal we were listening to, though, was that one. But, of course, the big exciting goals came at the end of the game with the last 3 minutes there. 3 seconds. 3 minutes. 3 minutes and 1 second. Sean Reynolds is going to sort me out here. He's going to help us understand also what the Jets are up against. He's a hockey reporter with Rogers Sportsnet. He's, of course, one of the hosts of Kenny and Rennie Show podcast, and we like to claim Sean because he also worked here in CBC Manitoba. Hello.
Hi, Marcy. It's great to talk to you. And yes, you have every right to claim me. Everything I am as a journalist comes from my time spent in that building.
Awesome. You're much more talented than you're giving yourself credit for, Sean. Listen, I am clearly still sleep deprived from that game. As exciting as it was, I think we really need to sort of settle down now and look at round 2. As opponents, how do the Stars compare to the Blues? Why don't we start there?
Well, on paper, they would be a lot more formidable. The St. Louis Blues were the last team to book their ticket to the playoffs in the Western Conference. The Dallas Stars had a very real chance of catching the Jets for the President's Trophy pretty late in the season, where they kind of fell apart towards the end of the season. I think a lot of people thought that they were walking wounded and primed to be taken out by the Colorado Avalanche. That almost happened. They, just like the Jets the night before, had a bit of a miracle comeback. Not quite as miraculous, but an amazing story, all in the same to get to the second round. It may be a little bit hard to tell. The Blues, although they were an 8th seed, were really, really good. I mean, all you needed to do was watch that series and see how tough they played the Winnipeg Jets, and the fact that they had them on the ropes and at one point a 99% chance of winning that game before miracles happened. But on paper, if we were looking at this very subjectively, you would say that the task just got a lot more daunting for for the Winnipeg Jets and playing the Dallas Stars.
So where are they going to, if they beat us, where are they going to beat us? Like, is this Hellebuck has to be top notch the whole way along? I mean, obviously everybody knows we're going to have everything clicking, but I'm wondering, where are they strongest compared to where we might have some deficiencies?
It's a really good question because, this last series, as good as the Blues played, Connor Hellebuck didn't have a good series, and the Jets still won. The Jets shouldn't have been able to win without Mark Scheifele, and they still were able to win. So, I mean, this is one of those ones, and honestly, I hate it when, players and coaches will answer questions back at me like this when you ask about that it's not about them, it's about us. That it's probably the same thing here. Like the Winnipeg Jets seem to have something special in the way that they did what they did. They've been doing that all year. As surprising as it was for them to win that game, it shouldn't be surprising because they showed time and time again throughout the season that they were a team capable of doing that. The last time they played the St. Louis Blues, they did that to them, tied them late and beat them in overtime. But sorry, you want to say something?
You know why I'm interjecting? Because I'm interjecting so we can get a sense of, like, if Scheifele were in and Hellebuck had it buttoned down and we're like not leaky, so to speak, inconsistent, right? Would we be evenly matched with the Stars, or are we still having a tough time against this team?
Well, on paper, no. On paper, the Dallas Stars should be the more superior team, but the Jets were the superior team in the playoffs. In the regular season, and down the stretch they were as well. So, I mean, I guess it's a way of saying, no one looked at the beginning of the year and thought the Jets were going to win the President's Trophy, and they won the President's Trophy, and everyone thought that they were going to slow down at some point, and they didn't slow down, and everyone thought at the end of the season the Dallas Stars were going to catch them, and they didn't catch them. So the Jets are kind of one of those teams that are belying what people would think of them. So the Stars, if you take a look at them up and down their roster and compare the two rosters, you would think that the Stars are deeper, maybe have more high-end power, but the Winnipeg Jets keep finding ways to surprise people or prove people wrong, more along those lines. So, I mean, the Dallas Stars are capable of doing it. And it could be this kind of series where the Dallas Stars end up winning in 5 games and everyone says, okay, the slipper, the other shoe dropped, the slipper fell off. But the Jets keep giving themselves a chance, and they do it by playing a really honest brand of hockey.
So 2 more quick questions. One is, if after this series, there's a lot of bandwagon fans, and I'm not going to apologize for being one of them. I watch every second of the playoffs. I don't know all the names of all the guys during the year. But if after this series we were going Snuggarood, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who on the Stars are we going to be like cursing because they're just awesome?
Well, the way things end in the last series for the Stars, it will be Rantanen, a guy that the Jets were interested in picking up at the trade deadline, and who was a longtime player with the Colorado Avalanche, was part of the team that frustrated the Jets in the playoffs last year with the Colorado Avalanche, who got sent away before the trade deadline, ended up in Dallas, and was the key guy in killing the playoff aspirations of the Colorado Avalanche, as he had a hat trick and an assist in the last period of a Game 7 where they had their own comeback to topple the Colorado Avalanche. He's the kind of player who's been great for years, and a lot of people didn't think would get going. He's going now. He's one of a list of many. Jason Robertson has been their own injured guy out of the lineup who could step back in. Their best defenseman they got through the first round without in Miro Heiskanen, and their goaltender Jake Ottinger has the capability of playing and besting a guy like Connor Hellebuck, who Jordan Binnington did in the first round. But again, the Jets found a way.
Last quick question here, and more of a statement for you to confirm or say no, not so much, is I understand that their arena is going to be a little bit more subdued, though, than what we faced in St. Louis.
Well, the St. Louis, give them props, give them credit. I've covered them a couple times in the playoffs. Formidable building, and it was for the Winnipeg Jets. You could see they struggled in it. Not quite whiteout levels, especially what I saw in that Game 7.
Yeah.
Dallas will not have that kind of environment. Good environment, but what you'd expect from most sports environments. What you saw in St. Louis was amazing. What you see in Winnipeg, supernatural.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Sean. Nice to see you. We'll see what goes on in this series. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
See how I just slid over the fact that Sean actually, I think, is maybe leaning to picking Dallas for winning this? I'm not going there. Except I went there. Sean Reynolds, hockey reporter with Rogers Sportsnet. The podcast is Kenny and Rennie, and Heather's here with headlines.
Well, Winnipeg's trying to take advantage of the Winnipeg Jets moment in the spotlight to promote tourism to this city. Martin Fisher at Show and Tell Advertising says just one Jets game, like Sunday's series winning match against St. Louis, can be worth millions, what he calls Super Bowl kind of money. And Manitoba's Progressive Conservative Party disclosed a deficit on Obby Khan's first day in the Legislative Chamber as party leader. The party says it ran a deficit of $689,000 in 2024. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather. Commute's going fine. Be careful on the Moray Bridge due to the closure. Active commuting on the west side. Walkway could be tough. It is 9 degrees in Winnipeg with lots of sunshine, and stay tuned.
Today on Q.
I'm Jill Deacon, sitting in for Tom Power. Joe Keery is best known as an actor on Stranger Things.
This is what I'm talking about.
But last year, one of his songs went viral. Joe Keery joins Tom Power to talk about the end of Stranger Things and his new music.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
The CBC's Margaret Evans has been on a rare reporting trip to Iran, and among the surprising things she saw, a lot of women not wearing headscarves, despite the threat of severe consequences. Margaret Evans in Iran, coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Canada's relationship with the United States will be front and center today. Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet with U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House. It is the first official sit-down for the two leaders since last week's federal election. Tariffs and Trump's comments about annexing Canada will likely add to the intensity of this meeting. The CBC's Richard Madden joins me now from Washington. And Richard, what are we expecting today?
Yeah, the White House agenda says the Prime Minister will arrive at the White House around 11:30 Eastern Time. There'll be an official greeting in the Oval Office before the two leaders hold a working lunch behind closed doors. Now, there are, of course, a lot of items on the agenda for this high-stakes meeting, from trade to tariffs to economic partnership. But with all that, there are the optics and unpredictability from President Trump when the cameras are rolling. Now, this is a president who's mused about annexing Canada, turning it into the 51st state, who will be sitting beside a prime minister who built his campaign against the Trump administration. Now, Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick sounded skeptical the two leaders will reach a deal or consensus on trade, while hurling more insults at Canada during an interview on Fox Business News.
They have their socialist regime, and it's basically feeding off of America. I mean, the president calls that out all the time. Why do we make cars in Canada? Why do we do our films in Canada? Come on.
Now, it's worth noting Trump has sounded less hostile to Canada and its prime minister since his election, and some journalists here say Trump appears to have taken credit for holding the Liberal government to a minority.
Richard, what impact could this have on Canada-U.S. relations?
Yeah, it is a high-stakes meeting, but the Prime Minister has already been downplaying expectations ahead of it, saying, don't expect a breakthrough. This is the first step to lower tensions and reset the strained relationship between the two countries. Now, from Trump's perspective, he says he's ready to make a deal on trade and tariffs, but the challenge appears to be the goalposts keep changing, and Trump's on-again, off-again tariff policy has left many industry and political leaders guessing.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
The CBC's Richard Madden in Washington. While Carney focuses on trade and tariffs, Conservative MPs are looking ahead to the return of Parliament. Under Pierre Poilievre, the party increased its votes and increased its seat count, but it didn't win. And Conservative MPs are regrouping at a caucus meeting today in Ottawa. Let's bring in Janice McGregor from our Parliamentary Bureau. And Janice, a lot for Conservatives to decide today. Walk us through it.
Marcia, there are some Conservatives who believe they lost because of Pierre Poilievre, but so far it appears there are more Conservatives who believe they almost won because of Poilievre, and he needs to keep going. Even MPs in the second camp, though, have to reckon with the fact that they're not in government and figure out where the blame lies. Does the fault lie with campaign manager Jenny Byrne, or were there factors beyond her control? Former Cabinet Minister Peter MacKay believes the caucus is going to want to see changes in the wake of what happened.
There'll be an airing of grievances, but there'll also be an emphasis on the positive things that happened in this campaign.
With the return of Parliament only weeks away, MPs have some key decisions to make on how much power their caucus is going to hold, whether they want as a group to control their membership, whether they want to be able to elect their chair, whether they want the power to launch a leadership review, and whether they want the right to choose a new interim party leader, like what happened after former leader Erin O'Toole lost the election in 2021. Because Pierre Poilievre failed to win a seat in the House of Commons, they need someone else to serve as leader of the official opposition, at least for the short term. If MPs pick someone today who's known to be a loyalist to Poilievre, that may be a sign that his leadership is safe for the longer term.
But an MP has already stepped aside so Poilievre can run in that riding. So why won't he be in the House this spring?
You're right. Damien Carrick has already volunteered to give up his very safe rural Alberta seat of Battle River Crowfoot. But there's a 30-day waiting period after a general election before he can do so. By the time that unfolds and it's declared vacant and they have a by-election campaign, that's simply not enough time to see Poilievre back in the House until likely the fall.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. The federal NDP, meanwhile, have chosen an interim leader. Jagmeet Singh resigned on election night after the party's worst showing in history. For now, Vancouver MP Don Davies will be filling that role. Germany was supposed to get a new chancellor today, but there's been a surprise upset.
Mitgliederzahl 630, ungültiger Stimmzettel einer.
That is the president of Germany's parliament reading out MP votes. Friedrich Merz was expected to be confirmed as chancellor. He is the leader of a majority coalition. But he was defeated by just 6 votes. That is something that hasn't happened in Germany since the Second World War. The Bundestag now has 14 days to elect a candidate with an absolute majority. Merz can run again, but so can other lawmakers. If none of them gets a majority in the next 2 weeks, the president can appoint the frontrunner as chancellor or call another election. There will be another vote in just a few hours. Lawyers for the 5 former World Junior Hockey players accused of sexual assault will again today cross-examine the alleged victim known as EM. They are questioning her about her account of the alleged sexual assault in a London, Ontario hotel room in 2018. As the CBC's Katie Nicholson reports, the trial is being watched closely by advocates and legal experts alike.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
Ever since her first day in court, supporters of EM have gathered outside the courthouse.
Culture has got to go. Hey, hey!
Those who work to end gender-based violence have taken a keen interest in the trial, even sitting in for her testimony, and especially her cross-examination. On Monday, that meant probing for inconsistencies between statements EM gave to Hockey Canada and London police, but also questions about how much she used to drink and whether she was really as intoxicated as she has testified.
Today we probably got a little bit of a taste of the cross-examination that's going to be happening.
Jessie Roger is with ANOVA, which among other things works with sexual assault victims.
I think that those of us who work in the field of sexual violence are going to be listening closely to how rape myths come into the courtroom.
We have to remember that this case is going to get tried in the courtroom and not on the courthouse steps.
London-based defense attorney Nick Cake, who isn't involved in the case but is watching it closely, says the accused's lawyers have to walk a fine line.
Ultimately, the Supreme Court has reminded defense counsel a number of times that we are to treat complainants in sexual assault matters with dignity and with respect.
But Cake says they also have to ask tough questions to properly represent their clients.
When you're in front of a jury, you want to be mindful of how you appear, but you cannot sacrifice personal appearance for the function of seeking the truth.
Lawyers for the 5 accused are expected to do just that as they continue their first full day of cross-examination of EM. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Millions of birds are migrating north. There are worries avian flu may be coming with them. During the spring, birds flock to northern Ontario, Quebec, and Manitoba, but many take a rest in Essex County. As Jennifer LaGrassa tells us, the region in southwestern Ontario has become a hotspot for studying bird flu.
Going to reach down into the water.
Research student Cam Chevalier fills a bottle with water from the nearby lake. He collects samples once a week at 10 spots along the northern shore of Lake Erie, a key region for migrating birds.
So we see a passage of millions of migratory birds come through annually in the spring and the fall.
And that makes it an important area to track the presence of highly pathogenic avian influenza, or bird flu. The Canadian government estimates that more than 14 million birds have been impacted by the virus, but the U.S. has seen 10 times that number. With spring migration, infected birds could be traveling north of the border.
This makes Essex County a hotspot for understanding which species of birds move into our region, whether they carry the virus.
Dan Mennel is an ornithologist at the University of Windsor. His colleague, chemistry professor Kenneth Ng, tests the water samples, checking for the virus and any changes to its structure.
What we are definitely concerned about are changes in the virus that allow it to infect people more easily and then to spread among people more easily.
Of the handful of cases in Canada and dozens in the United States, there's been no reported spread of the virus between people. Ng points to research like this as being essential to help officials prepare in the case that the disease takes flight. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor, Ontario.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us. We're live in downtown Winnipeg on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. It is 10 degrees on your Tuesday morning, and this half hour on the program, the University of Manitoba is calling on the province to commit more funding for research projects and a plan. We're going to hear what that means when we talk to the university's president this half hour and find out where our province ranks nationally when it comes to research funding. So stay tuned. That's part of an ongoing conversation that we've been having. You might recall earlier this spring, a group of researchers sent a letter of concern to the province about this. So we'll give you all the context and we'll have that interview. Also this half hour in the program, we have another call to play. You've been calling us this morning about charitable giving. Where you give and why you give. And this is in the context of giving across the country being down as the older generation also is in decline. And part of that's important because on our faith column this morning, it was looking at the correlation between older generations more often faith-based and attending faith services and also more often giving. And so that's been a shift in the generations. We got a call about that, so we'll get that on in a minute. Right now, Heather Wells is standing by live. She's here with our headlines this morning at 8:11.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba's premier says he will not seek the federal NDP leadership. Kinew speaking for the first time since his national counterparts were decimated in last week's federal election. Jagmeet Singh losing his own seat and resigning as party leader. Kinew says he has no interest in replacing Singh, calling being Manitoba's premier the best job in the world. Winnipeg businesses are excited for another round of whiteout street parties. The Winnipeg Jets face the Dallas Stars in Game 1 right here tomorrow night. And we're going to hear from the owner of Ice Time Sports, who's had to place another order for white shirts and hoodies because they're just such popular items. More on that in our next local news at 8:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Let's get into what's happening in the actual weather forecast. I gave a little bit of the headlines, I guess, but where are we at, Abby?
10 degrees now in Winnipeg, and the sun, it's really trying to make its appearance with those cloudy conditions we're seeing. As we get through the day, the clouds will definitely be moving out. The sun will take over. It's going to get breezy at some point, but we will warm up to 17 degrees, and tonight we'll see more clear conditions. Those windy conditions we feel during the afternoon will come, and then we drop to around 4 degrees. Tomorrow, even warmer, we're expecting 20 degrees. In other regions at this time, we're seeing 8 degrees and 10 degrees in most of the southern region, while Thompson is at -5 and Churchill is still stuck at -12.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk has made his way back in.
Yes, got a call from Naomi on the commuter line. The lights are out completely at Logan and Keewatin right now. No one on scene directing traffic, but that is also where there's construction going on as well. Southbound Keewatin closed at Logan for construction until May 30th. So heads up there. She says it's looking pretty backed up, especially northbound is starting to build. And Jason Carter also called. He said there's a down tree on the river trail, kind of when you coming from in front of the ledge at that Louis Riel landing, making your way towards the Forks. There's a downed tree there that you could climb over if you're walking, but if you're less mobile, it'll be impossible to get around. So heads up there. It's blocking the river trail. If you see anything else going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of calling, we got a number of calls to our listener line. Here's another one. This is around our item, as I mentioned, that church attendance is on the decline in Canada. Charitable giving is also on the decline. And we were learning about the relationship between those two. We asked, why do you give?
Hi, this is Lisan Colt. And although I come from a very religious family, that's not the reason why I donate. The reason I donate is that people were kind to me. And I think your researcher forgot a very important point. The generation that's coming up now are working on term positions. And when you are living paycheck to paycheck, you do not always have the money to give. Now that I am in a more secure position, I am able to give. Anyways, just food for thought. Bye.
Thank you for calling. 788-3205 if you want to join the conversation. Well, U.S. scientists who find themselves unable to conduct research due to cuts from the Trump administration should consider coming to Manitoba. That is what Premier Kinew said earlier this spring. But there's been some pushback from Manitoba's research community. As I alluded to, they believe the province should be doing more to support local research first. You might recall that a group of researchers even sent a letter to the province about that. I asked Premier Kinew about whether or not his government's doing enough to restore funding cuts from the previous Manitoba administration governments. The NDP have committed $100,000 to the budget for Research Manitoba, but it is a drop in the bucket of more than $13 million that were cut between 2016 and 2023. In our monthly interview last month, when I put this to the Premier, here's what he said.
We've increased funding for researchers in Manitoba. We're about to roll out an ad campaign to try and recruit more Americans who are feeling disillusioned or even losing their immigration status. But at the same time, job number one we were elected on was to fix healthcare. One of the other big priorities that we see is on public safety and helping on the social issues. So we're moving things forward in a lot of different ways. And I would just say that repairing some of the challenges we saw under the previous government doesn't happen overnight, but we're doing it. And I appreciate these researchers raising this issue because it's one that I support. But again, within the context of trying to make investments to Trump-proof our economy and fix our healthcare, we're just trying to execute a balancing act.
So that was Premier Kinew in our interview on April 11th. Well, Michael Bennett is with us next to talk about his perspective on all of this. He's president and vice chancellor at the University of Manitoba, and he recently actually wrote an op-ed about this in the Winnipeg Free Press. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what are your initial thoughts on, the Premier asking U.S. researchers to come to Manitoba? And then if you want to slide right into it, we've just heard how he's defending that, they're trying to spend on a whole bunch of things. You're competing with healthcare dollars here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we want researchers to want to choose Manitoba. We want researchers to see Manitoba as a destination for them. And in order to have that happen, we want to be able to support those researchers. We want to have the labs to support them. We want to have the research infrastructure. And we want to have the finances to be able to support them. And the second part of that is we want to support graduate students because a lot of research is done by graduate students. And I think right now we're challenged in Manitoba to be able to do this. You presented the numbers. This is not a situation that this government created. This has been created through cuts from past governments and probably past governments not paying enough attention to research. And so we have a bit of work to do here in Manitoba to be able to build the resources and the financial support that's necessary. Our province lags behind all other provinces in support of research. And so this is a challenge. I would say that in my conversations with this government, they recognize the importance of research. They recognize that this is a challenge. And I think they've, in hearing the Premier's comments, certainly this is what they've focused on. They focused on healthcare, they focused on safety. And around healthcare, we've been a part of that solution. They've invested heavily in the training of healthcare professionals in Manitoba. I would say around Trump-proofing the economy, research is part of that solution because it's through research that we lead to innovation. It's through research that we educate highly trained and highly skilled people. And those innovations and those highly skilled people will drive new economic growth within the province of Manitoba, will drive the development of products which will meet global needs and will be able to lead to economic growth, employment with here in the province. So I think we and the research enterprise is part of Trump-proofing our economy.
You write actually in your op-ed that, quote, studies show that for every dollar invested in research in Manitoba, $4 are returned to the economy, end quote. But you also write that without a plan, the province risks missing a rare opportunity to lead. Because a lot of this argument conversation so far has been about funding. But what are you talking about in terms of an opportunity to lead and what might be needed in terms of a plan?
Yeah, and I think that, and that's correct. Funding is one part of it, but we really need a provincial strategy to determine where research funding should be focused on, how we bring industry, how we bring research institutes outside of universities together with universities and with government to focus our researchers to best meet the needs of Manitoba. And that would help us all be able to plan moving forward. We have some sectors in Manitoba, medical research, biomedical research, agriculture, engineering, Arctic, areas that we have expertise on and are a big part of our economy. And so we know that resources are limited, and that's part of what the Premier was saying in that comment. And so bringing everybody together to develop a research strategy of how Manitoba is going to invest in research and the areas that we're going to become world leaders in, I think is critical at this time.
And how would allowing U.S. researchers to do their work here impact that at this time? Like, do you see them, because you don't sound like you're against having researchers come in, but is the timing off?
No, I don't. I mean, I think it's a great time because of the situation, right? The situation has created this time, and we need to take advantage of it. And we're already beginning to see some of this, maybe not from the U.S., but for example, we received a large grant from the federal government that's going to require some provincial matching to build what's called a Prairie Biologics accelerator, where early level clinical trials are going to be done. And as part of that, we're going to build a level 3 containment lab on our medical school campus. Having those two facilities has already allowed us to attract a Canadian academic from Eastern Canada who needs those labs to do his work. And he's coming now to Manitoba and to the University of Manitoba. It's going to allow us to do 90% of the tests for our medical research that we used to either have to go often to Saskatchewan or other places to do this work. That work will now be done in Manitoba. So I think this is a great time to attract researchers. It's a great time to help build the capacity at the University of Manitoba and the province of Manitoba.
Where does Manitoba rank nationally when it comes to provincial funding for research?
Unfortunately, this is a place we rank last in provincial funding on a per capita basis.
Was that, just to interject here, were we still last even before the previous government made those cuts?
No, but we were near the bottom. We were not last, though, before the government made those cuts. But with those cuts, we did move to last. And again, it's not a situation necessarily created by this government. and I understand that they have a lot of pressures on them. But the situation in the United States, the opportunities that this presents, and potentially a federal government that's looking to also attract talent and to drive innovation and productivity in Canada, there's a real great opportunity for all the stars to align here if our province and our can get behind this to make a significant impact here in the province of Manitoba.
What have you heard from the province about this issue directly?
I've heard support. I think they understand it. I think they're trying to find the resources. I hope they're trying to find the resources to put behind this. $100,000 is not going to do it. It's less than most of our research grants that our faculty members in engineering and science and medicine are getting. But I think they understand it. I think they do have this. I do think this is a new issue which has come on their table since the election. It was not something that got a lot of attention during the election, and I think they're trying to figure out how to be able to incorporate this into the strategy moving forward.
So specifically, what are you hoping to see and hear from the province next? If it is a funding increase, how much? And if it is getting together on a strategy, how soon?
So I think there's a few pieces. I would love us to have a table to begin to talk about a research strategy for Manitoba, and I would hope that the University of Manitoba and our post-secondaries would be a part of that. I think we have to restore funding to Research Manitoba at least back to the levels of where it was in 2016. And I would like to see the matching funds for the Prairie Biologics accelerator be announced. And then the final part, we're working internally to try to find resources to bring academics to our university who might find this as an opportunity to be leaving another country. And I would love both the federal government and the province to be a part of that strategy so that we can support our graduate students, so that we can bring the best talent to Manitoba.
And just last, how much is the matching fund for the labs that you're talking about, that work?
It's $16.8 million. So to put that in context, right, that's already bigger than the entire Research Manitoba budget. So I understand that that's a big number and a challenge. But if we're going to situate ourselves in Manitoba to be a leader, if we want other provinces to work with us and we want researchers from around the world, the Prairie Biologics Accelerator and the Level 3 containment labs, those can be used by industry. Those can be used by other researchers. It's like the Churchill Marine Observatory, right? Global researchers are coming there to work with Manitoba. It's bringing attention to Manitoba. Ambassadors from all over the world, and especially Northern Europe, are going to visit our Churchill Marine Observatory. It's bringing attention to our province. And I think these are the kinds of things we need to continue to grow Manitoba and, in fact, to Trump-proof our economy.
Michael Bennett, thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Bennett, the President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Manitoba. We spoke yesterday. By the way, our next monthly interview with Premier Kinew is coming up on Thursday's show. Next local news coming up here at 8:30. Marjorie Dalhouse is then going to come in and tell us what's going on in the Radio Noon call-in. But we have a bit of music that seems to match the mood of this morning. That sun is so bright. And London, Ontario's Sunshine Makers recently announced plans to release their second album. Here's the title track.
Let your light shine so bright. Just be you. Just be you. Everything I do. Everything I do. Everything I do. I do it for you. And the sun still shines for you. And the sun still shines for you.
We're going to let the Sunshine Makers fade away with The Sun Still Shines. That's the title track of their forthcoming album. It's due out in June. And that is because we need to make way to hear what's happening on Radio Noon's call-in today. Marjorie Dalhouse has popped in. Hi.
Hi, Marcy. Well, today we're asking you, how do you use social media? Just about everyone. I know some people who are not on social media, but just about everyone uses social media. Well, we're asking you this because Mark Zuckerberg told a U.S. antitrust trial that social media is over, that Facebook is not being used the way he intended it to be, which was to make connections with family and friends. And he likened the platforms to more like regular media. So we're asking you, how do you use it? Do you still connect with people? Do you use it to do shopping? Do you use it for anything else as your source of news and information? We want to hear from you. Join the conversation after 12:30.
I'm always shocked, actually, when I see it being used for what it was initially intended sometimes. When someone posts like, we just had a baby, and I'm like, whoa, this is a personal post, right? To share with friends and family. But it really has changed. So it'll be interesting to hear.
Absolutely. So call in at 12:30 and share your thoughts.
All right. Thanks very much, Mark.
Thanks, Marcy.
Your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it is sunny, 10 degrees right now. We're headed to a windy high of 17, and we start warming back up tomorrow. Well, Prime Minister Mark Carney is going to have to navigate a delicate balance during his first in-person meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump in just a few hours. Carney says the meeting will mark the beginning of a larger economic and security agreement between Canada and the United States. Since returning to the White House, Trump has repeated a list of complaints about Canada and says it would be better off as a U.S. state. The vice president at the Canadian Global Affairs Institute says there are signals Trump will treat Carney differently than he treated former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The kind of publicity Winnipeg is getting during the NHL playoffs doesn't come cheap. The televised hockey games and the whiteout street parties have put a spotlight on Winnipeg and its downtown. It's too soon to know the full economic impact of the games and the street parties, but Economic Development Winnipeg says it's already seeing some benefit. It invited 10 social media content creators from across Canada and the U.S. to Winnipeg to promote the games. Vice President of Tourism, Natalie Thiessen, says that content generated 58 million views, worth about $2 million in what she calls earned media.
That ability to position our city in a different way and having more eyeballs on Winnipeg allows us to do our jobs and extend our reach that our budget doesn't allow.
Now, Winnipeg businesses are ready for more whiteout sales in the second round of the NHL playoffs. Will Galt, owner of Willie's Dogs, will be taking his dog cart to tomorrow's downtown street party. He says Jets playoff games help everyone.
You can't really lose by doing this, and it recognizes you also for other people to showcase your food with that many people in the venue that want to book you for, corporate events or school barbecues or private parties.
Ice Time Sports owner Michael Wynn says the Jets going into the second round means he has had to place another order for white shirts and hoodies. Game 1 of round 2 against the Dallas Stars is right here in Winnipeg tomorrow night at 8:30. Manitoba's premier says he will not seek the federal NDP leadership. Wab Kinew spoke for the first time since his national counterparts were decimated in last week's election. The NDP has been reduced to just 7 seats in the House of Commons, losing official party status federally. Manitoba lost 2 of its 3 NDP seats. Jagmeet Singh losing his own seat in BC, resigning as party leader. The premier says he was disappointed in the federal party's showings, but Kinew says he has no interest in replacing Singh.
Manitobans have given me the best job in the world, and you've given me at a time where there's a huge threat and uncertainty to our province, which is the threat of the Trump tariffs. And so I fully intend to carry out this amazing job that I've been asked to perform as premier.
Last night, the federal NDP chose Vancouver Kingsway MP Don Davies to be the party's interim leader. Manitoba's Progressive Conservative Party disclosed a deficit on Abhi Khan's first day in the legislative chamber as party leader. The party filed its annual return yesterday. In 2024, the PCs ran a deficit of $689,000. The governing NDP in that same time posted a surplus of $835,000. Khan says he plans to spend the summer raising money and getting the PCs ready for the next provincial election. People in Thompson are being offered a chance to learn trade skills like welding and woodworking in free workshops. It's happening at a new educational facility. Skills Shop North opened its doors late last year inside a former warehouse. Jordan Eilot is a volunteer instructor.
We start with a rough and furry piece of lumber, and we introduce all of the participants to the process of taking that rough and furry piece of lumber through the entire wood milling process.
Skills Shop North is funded through federal and provincial government grants. Eilot says while classes aren't regularly scheduled right now, he hopes more funding leads to more workshops. You can find more news. All you have to do is head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks very much, Heather.
You're welcome.
Well, the morning commute has been pretty quiet. I'll just mention a couple things here. The lights are out at Logan and Keewatin, so we do believe that is still being affected at this hour as we end the show. And we did have some calls about active commuting, so hopefully you'll be okay out there. But I know the Maury Street Bridge, for example, the west side, for active commuters, the walkway is blocked by barricades because of the construction on the bridge. So you, in fact, might have to double back, and some people are going underneath and such. Corey's just coming in with a bit of an update. We also had a second call about active commuting as well. Yeah. Any update, Corey?
Yeah, actually, the lights are back now. I just
good. This is on Logan and Keewatin.
Yes,
Great.
They are back on Logan and Keewatin. And there is a down tree between the Luriel landing there outside the ledge and the forks on the river trail. So heard from Jason Carter about that. So it might be tough to get over if you're biking or can't walk over top.
Okay, thanks for the update, Corey.
Thank you.
And just before I give our credits and thank yous, let's have one last quick look at the weather with Abby.
A sunny day across the province from the south all the way up. Winnipeg at 10 degrees right now. Some partly cloudy conditions we're seeing now that should clear by midday and we warm up to 17. And that's what we'll see in most of the regions, getting close to 20. While up north, highs will be between 7 and 11.
Big thanks to our live crew, Corey Funk, Abby Adeyemi, and Brad Lillies. Also to our news department, Heather Wells, Megan Ketchison, Joni Nicolo, and Darren Bernhardt out there. Associate producers who had items on today's program, Chidi Akuma, Jenna Badasso, and Marshall Hodgins, as well as our faith contributor, John Longhurst. The producer of our current affairs shows overall, all of our shows here, is Nellie Gonzalez, and the senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba is Leif Larson. Thanks everyone who worked on today's program. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thank you for listening. And this has been CBC's Information Radio, your morning show. Take care, be well, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow, right here. The Current's coming up next. Stay tuned.